right. Hello, you guys. I hope this is working. This is my first live. Oh, let me get my mic closer. This is my first time doing this with like a scheduled live stream and stuff. Are we on, you guys? It says live. Is it yes? Hello, hello. It's so good to see everybody joining in. Hey. Oh my gosh, so many wonderful familiar faces. Hi. Oh, this is so great. Okay, so yeah, so we are live. Okay, perfect. Wonderful. Oh my gosh. Okay, you guys, I have been super excited to share this information with you guys. We've been talking as a community for so long about like what the heck is this ascension, and we get these messages like, it's been what has it been like week after week after week where the angels are giving us the play by play, and I love it, right? I absolutely love it, and I mean I think you guys do too because we're all here together, and but I also say, okay, that there's this thing where they're kind of zoning in on our experience right now. And it's rare that we take a step back and look at the big picture. It's rare that we are looking at like the whole big why of how this all came and how it started and everything like that. And so that's the piece that I want to talk about with you guys today, because I think it's kind of mind-blowing when you boil it down and look at it. And then see how that then impacts us individually. So I'm looking in the chat. I see, oh my gosh, you guys, it is so good to see you here. Hello, hello. And I want to thank extra special. I've got some beautiful moderators here helping me today. So you guys, please, extra special thanks to Janice and Melissa and to April and Wendy, who are all going to be part of my new Soul Convergence program. They are all graduates of the Ashling Dream Interpretation School, and they are going to be, and I just went like a little crazy with the hairspray today. Who else does that? So anyway, sorry, distraction. But they are going to be helping with all of us with in terms of just helping with your questions. So I am going to open up now I just read how to do this, so forgive me if I do it wrong. I'm going to be opening up a thing where we can start a Q&A. And this Q&A is, I'm just going to say, put your questions here. Okay, there we go. So that should hopefully now, there we go, start. Hopefully I didn't put any typos in there. So there is now a Q&A at the top of the thing here. So please do. Engaging in the chat is phenomenal. And then if there's anything specific as we're talking about stuff, and as we go into the part about soul convergence, I've gotten quite a few questions from people just in email, and I'll be answering those as well. So if you have questions, that way they won't get lost in the conversation. We can have a conversation. But if there's something you want me to come back to, throw it in the chat. And so that's one way we can just stay organized. So yay, it's so fun to be live with you guys. This is really, really awesome. So, okay, so by the way, you guys know that we are right literally smack dab in the middle of the eclipse, which is happening right where I live. So I am in the Pacific Northwest, I'm in the Seattle area, and that eclipse is coming straight across the country like this. And it's crazy when we talk about, remember the angels have said there would be potentially a separation of the United States, and you look at these two eclipses. We've got the solar and the lunar eclipse this month, and they form like a cross across the country like this, literally like they're cutting it in half, which is, maybe that's just me stretching a metaphor too far, but it is definitely unusual to see that. But this one right now is happening literally as we are together. So yeah, so soak in those energies. And it's interesting. People say that eclipses are the energy of chaos, but I always say that it's like you have to, things during change, during moments of a lot of movement, that's where you make your biggest growth. It's when things are static and unchanging that they stay the same all the time. So if what we are after as a collective is massive change, this eclipse to me represents enormous opportunity, right? It is the opportunity for those of us who are ready to stand on our feet, right? And to step into it and say, yes, please. Then it's amazing opportunity for us. That's what an eclipse can manifest for us. Opportunity for personal growth, opportunity for growth of the collective, right? For however it's going to manifest. And by the way, if you haven't checked it out, it's a good idea to check out what your rising sign is, and then see where it affects you, which house it affects you, because that's kind of how it boils down. Sun sign is great, but the good stuff is where your rising sign is. So, all right. So are you guys ready to dig into this? You're saying, yeah, please put your questions in the Q&A. That will be awesome. And you're saying, I'm hearing that this ascension has been happening for years and that the event has been talking about for years. There's something that will happen in a few decades. How soon? So I believe the way that I understand the information we've been given by the angels so far. And I try as best I can to stick with what they've told me. And when I'm kind of giving my own analysis, I'll try to be clear on that because I am often wrong and they are not. So I will try to be clear about what they say and try as much as I can to be clear, so that so you guys can have your own judgments. But they have been giving us information, and some of those bits of information, I would call them bits. They're like pieces. They're like funny little snapshots. And I would be like, why are they focusing on that? Like, why that thing? Why the bird flu? Like, why did that become a thing? Why about the truck drivers? Why was that a thing? What about, like, okay, yes, rising consumer goods. I could see how that's part of the economy. But we have seen, as they've been talking to us, we've been seeing the things they have shared, the specific things and some of the broader things, the things they've shared. We've been seeing those come to pass. And some of them we're getting into some of the bigger ones. Like a couple of years ago, they talked very specifically about the bank failures, and they talked about exactly how it happened. They said it would be people who had large deposits and that people would get their money back, which is what has happened so far. So, but then they also said there's going to be there's larger stuff on the horizon. But I think of it as like a trail of breadcrumbs, is that they are showing us these are events leading up to these bigger events. And that all of these I think are important because it represents, if you think of all of these systems that hold everything in place, like a rubber band that's getting stretched tighter and tighter and tighter. And think about what COVID did to the structures in the world. Is it stretched them, it stressed them enormously, right? And then you add on top of that the banking crisis. And so what happened with the banking crisis is, yes, all the deposits were covered, but the FDIC, that insurance, is kind of not nearly tapped out. So what the government did is they had other banks cover the banks that were struggling. So it's almost like if you have your emergency cash and then you have your emergency cash, they have already tapped into the second level of emergency cash. So how much more stretched can that rubber band get? How many more pockets can they dig into? Right. So it's like watching this rubber band get stretched and stretched. So I think all of these little things along the way are like, okay, it's getting stretched, and we're going to get to a point where it can't be kept up anymore, where it starts to shake, it starts to fall. And so what will that look like? People have asked us, like, are we looking at total chaos? I can tell you that I am still being told to travel. I'm still being told, that I'm meant to write a book. How would I publish a book if there's no systems in place? Like, how would that happen? How would I travel? Right. And same thing with my kids are being told very specifically, like, no, like, and all of us, the angels tell us all, keep investing in your lives. That just because this happens doesn't mean, like, it's like there will still be some systems in place, the systems that are in alignment with the new energy, and it will probably give rise to new systems because we need structure, just like our body needs bones. Like, as a community, as a communal, humanity needs structure. We just need structure that's aligned with the greatest good, not self-interested structure. So we have to take apart the self-interested structure, and we have to find the pieces and the bits that are ready to move into this new energy. Like, I was thinking about, and I think we talked about that in one of the recent lives. We talked about how in Hawaii, like, there were certain companies that showed up, and like Costco was giving everybody generators, and satellites were being donated to get them back, online. So it was, companies that were willing to step in and help in a meaningful way for the greater good. And so that's the kind of thing. And it's not saying that that's the only way. I mean, I think the way that a company is in a meaningful way a continued participant in this, what I would consider to be like a new economy, is by providing ongoing, support, resources, livelihoods in a way that, that is fair and equal for people. And so who prioritizes that doesn't keep all the profits for the people at the top, but that it makes it so that it's based on a sense of honoring the work of everyone. So there will still be a world And so we will be in it. And the best way for us to be part of that is to continue to invest our energies in the things that you care about, right? And in the things that you're passionate about. And then as we move through it, and I think part of the reason they're telling us all this stuff is so that we are not scared when stuff happens, so that we can just be like, yep, the stuff we're losing is stuff we didn't need. And what's coming for us, and we have to clear out the closet. So even if there is some of these events happen where you are, all of them are not going to happen everywhere. Some of them will happen everywhere. You know what I mean? Like there'll be something, but not everything in one place. So whatever it is that's near you, like it may be a thing where you got to clean out the closet. It may be a thing where you have to let something go. And hopefully it's not something that's too dear or too precious to you. Or maybe you see through to a place where you realize that it's not too dear or too precious. And then you make space for the new thing to come in. And boy, has that been a lesson in my life. As a matter of fact, like every 2 years, it literally is a cycle. Every 2 years, I let go of what I've been doing. I let go of home. I let go of marriage. I let go of work. I let go of whatever it is that I'm focused on becomes the thing that I let go of. And then it becomes, okay, great, make the space. Like, I don't know what's coming, make space. And then something beautiful comes in. And that's what this new program is for me. Soul Convergence is the new thing. And it's always something that stretches me, that is intensely guided, because when you do that, when you let go, you are so rewarded. Like when you take the plunge, it's the way it's funny. I was just talking about this morning, is that it's almost like when you commit to your path, when you commit by letting go what needs to be let go of, by doing the thing that's scary, turning into the thing that's scary. It's almost like you have your little book of resources. Like these are all the things I have for my life, and these are all the things I'm working with. But then if you turn the page and like, okay, that's scary, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to take that plunge. I'm going to jump over the edge of that cliff. It's like all of a sudden the universe notices. And they're like, oh, wow, look at that. Like Shelly is showing up, like she's doing the work. And then they just show up all of a sudden. Like all of a sudden they're like, okay, great. Let's direct more resources. Let's give her more gifts. Let's bring more things to her. And so your life expands in unexpected ways. And some of those things are probably planned, but I bet you some of them are not. It's almost like who's got the capacity, who is willing, right? Who's willing to pick up another ball and juggle it? And so, yeah, so it is, they say like that old saying, it's like, what is it, like the rewards are for the meek, something like that. I'm sorry, you guys know I don't have a lot of religious background, but I don't think that's it. I think it is the rewards are for the people who are willing to jump off the cliff. I think that's where it's at. Like it is who is willing to engage, who is willing to put themselves out there, who is willing to do what's scary for them, And so I know lots of you are like, I've got gifts, but I don't feel ready. Or I think I have these gifts, but I'm not sure. And there is never a point where you're going to feel ready. Like there's never a moment where it's like having kids. There's never a moment where you're like, yeah, I can totally master this. It's always terrifying. And so it's same thing with like putting yourself out there. It's like you can't know what it's going to be until you do it. And then once you do it, you get supported. So that's the thing that we don't factor into the equation, is we think we're all on our own and we think that it's all up to us. But once we commit, that's what draws in the resources. Yeah. So, okay. All right. So, and yes, I was looking at your name, Shelly. I was like, oh, I'm going to call her out because she's got it coming. She's got the gifts coming in. All right. So you guys ready to talk about the Ascension? Who's ready? Let's go ahead. This is a trick. Let's see if I do it well. Okay. And here it comes. Is it working? Almost, I think. Hopefully. Can you see it? Can you see the presentation? Give me a thumbs up if you can see it. It says harmony. Is it like who says, give me a thumbs up? Somebody? I do not yet. Okay. All righty. I do not know. I may need to close this and start it again. Let me do that. Let me close it and start it again. Still not seeing it? We cannot see it. Wonderful, not yet. Okay, so let me go ahead and change this, and I'm going to do it again. Oh, I know why. Okay, I've got a reason why. Window capture, just a sec. See, this is all me learning. This is why it's so nice to be with a loving and supportive group of people. Okay, let me remove that. Yes, now I'm going to reinstate it, and it should work. Okay, window capture, create new. Okay. And just a moment here. There it is. Okay. And how about now? Can you see it now? No, not yet. Okay, give me just a minute. And okay, I'll try it one more time. Not yet. Oh, somebody said yes. No. Okay, still no. Okay, let me try it one more time. I've got another method. Still no. Hold on. Window capture, trash, just a second. And I'll try it the other way. Oh, there isn't that option. Huh. Okay, you guys, this is not making me happy. Hold on just a second. YouTube Studio, but this is like how it is during eclipse moments. Capture method. Okay, that should work. And all right, so let me go back to here. Now we switch to here. Anything? You say, I don't need it. You guys are so sweet. Thank you. All right. Well, okay. But there are some graphics in here that are going to make it so much more helpful for you. So, so maybe what I will do is, that's kind of stinky if I try to just play it on another surface. Give me 1 second and see if I can't figure this out. Into this one, I will add it into here and see if I can't do that. Okay. All right, how about that? Are you seeing it now? Take your time. Thank you guys so much. I am using OBS and I am putting this in, and it is not, maybe, it worked the other day when I tested it, but I think I need to, let's see here. And still nothing. Well, you guys, I mean, I could tell you about it, but it's just going to be hard for, you know, it's so funny. I could show you on my phone. And maybe I will just have to do that because this is like, it's not going perfectly. So I think I will just do it that way and just show you a tiny picture, and you guys are just going to have to imagine. How about that? But the important thing is the content, and that's what really it's all about. I had this all set up so beautifully for you. I'll figure it out. But in the meantime, let me go ahead and pull this up, and I'm just going to show you, because the key thing is the specific images. Okay. All right. So let me find it. And then hold on here. And let me get it up for you. Here it is. Okay. And then I'll just show you a slide and we'll just talk about each one. And the slides are really, because some of these things are complicated and you know, old school style. I should have like a flip chart. That would be cool. Okay, you guys. All right, so let's do this. Okay, hold on. And here it is. All right. It's crashing my phone. I think it's too big. So maybe what I'll do is grab my laptop and then bring it up for you, because it's crashing my phone. It's too big. Sometimes that programs need to be closed and reopened. Oh, thank you. Okay, I will try that and just see if it works. I could try closing I have it open. It said I had to have it open before I did the screen capture, and I have it ready. Well, you know what, guys? I'm going to run and grab my laptop, because there are things that I do want to show you, especially like the outline of what we're talking about. Let's see. Maybe if I turn it this way, you'll be able to see it. Okay. All right. Good enough. Okay. So I'm going to grab my laptop, I think, to do this. Thank you guys for being so patient. You guys want to hold on 1 second while I go grab it? Yeah. Okay. And there, I think you can kind of see that. Let me see if I hold that up and see if you can see it, because it's little. At least I can hold that up. Can you see that picture? Kind of. So here we are. I'm going to just bring this over here and do it small, and we'll just make it work. Okay, you guys. So here is the gist of it, is that we are talking, and thank you very much for putting up with that. This is one of those things, I had it all worked out. Darn it. So, okay, so the idea is we are talking about the evolution of human consciousness. And we're going to go through our agenda for this part just to organize it. And I just really want to try to make it as clear as I can, because this is complicated stuff. So I was trying to use the visual aids to help, but we will just, you guys are going to get it. It's going to be good. Hopefully I explain it clear enough. And if not, we can ask questions. So, okay, so we're going to talk about number one, where the template starts. So think about like that idea of like what is true for the small is true for the big, right? So what's true in our body is true in the universe. So we're going to talk about this whole idea of our evolution of consciousness. Where does the template for that start? And it starts in masculine and feminine energy and creation. So that's going to be the first thing we talk about. Then we're going to go break this down, break this interaction between masculine and feminine into the 4 stages of creation. Then from there, we're going to explain how the 4-stage cycle, this creation cycle, explains our shift in consciousness. Then we're going to look at where our current stage is. And then from there, we're going to talk about what the challenge of it is, where we're going, and what we can do. Does that sound good? So that's the agenda. That's what we're going to go over. All right. So if you imagine where the template starts is this idea of that life comes from source. And I have this really cute picture of like a bubble that is source. It's like a little ball. And if you imagine the ball and that inside the ball is source, right? And that source is all. So source is not just inside the ball. Source is also outside the ball. That source is everything, which is everything that's inside the ball. And then it's also nothing, which is everything that's outside of the ball, right? So it's both. It's everything and nothing at the same time, because source is everything. So it's kind of one of those weird mind benders of like, it's everything, but everything's inside the ball. So what's outside the ball? Oh, also source. It's everywhere. It's everything. It identifies as both the positive and the negative, the polarizing both, right? It's the everything and the nothing. So since we're starting here at the beginning of everything, when source is everywhere, everything is equal, which means that there is no movement, right? There's no movement, there's no change, that there's stillness, that there's perfect peace, perfect balance, because there is equality between what's everything and what is nothing. So this is the beginning. You can imagine this as being the start of time, right? The start of existence. So then imagine that source takes a breath, right? That first breath, that first inhale. And if source takes a breath, then that changes things. It creates movement. It creates a difference, right? Expansion. A breath is expanding. It's creating a difference between what is everything and what is nothing. And on that inhale, it's creating what we think of as masculine energy. And then when it exhales, it's creating what we consider to be feminine energy. And the interaction of those two things is what creates life. So this is the template that we follow in every aspect of existence, every aspect of life. So, so now if you just take that into the body for a minute and imagine if you inhale at the moment and just notice as you do the feeling in your chest and how your rib cage expands and gets larger, right? How you take up more space when you inhale. And then what you're doing when you inhale is you're actually oxygenating the blood, right? You're bringing in that air, the oxygen brings energy into the body, right? So you can feel it, just physically feel as you breathe in how you actually get bigger and take up more space, right? And that is masculine energy, that expansion, taking in more energy, becoming bigger, right? It starts things, it generates and builds up energy, it expands and creates movement. This is masculine energy. So now that you have all this air, go ahead and exhale. And notice when you exhale, so that inhale, it took energy, it took muscles to inhale. But when you exhale, all it is release. There's no force. You don't go normally anyways. The body just lets go and it relaxes. And what happens to the body when you do that is it actually gets smaller. And what's happening inside the body, fascinatingly, when you exhale, is that you take all that energy, all that oxygen that the air brought into the lungs, right? And it starts to disperse it out into the blood, right? That oxygenated air, that blood moves out and it starts moving all through and energizing the whole body, right? It doesn't just bring it into the lungs, it disperses it outward. And you are exhaling your carbon dioxide, right? This is what happens on the exhale. So that exhale is feminine energy. So the feminine energy is what finishes things. Masculine energy starts, feminine energy finishes. It lets things go. It disperses and dissipates energy. So all that energy that came into the lungs, it disperses it throughout the body, right? It relaxes and creates stillness. That's the feminine. So the exchange, that exchange between the two, the breathing, is what creates life in the body, right? The breathing, the exhale, or the inhale, and then the exhale. The point of exchange is the thing that then charges the body and creates life, right? So it's exchanging stillness for movement, right? Exchanging carbon dioxide for oxygen, the exchange, the actual process, the interaction between the masculine and the feminine, just like sexuality, right? It is that which creates, that is the force which creates life. So we mirror it in so many ways in our own bodies, both inside our body and in our relationship to one another. It is how we create life, is the interaction between these two forces. So we embody it, but it's also everywhere. All right, so, and I was just going to share with you that I was given a visual of this as I was working on this for you guys. As channeling, they gave me a visual showing me that there was this sort of spiral. If you think about the spiral, you can think of it as like the Kundalini spiral that comes up from the spine. You can think of it as the spiral that you see as the symbol for like the medical institutions, or you think of it as the DNA spiral that comes up. And they showed how those two pieces open at the top, and then inside they drop life. And it's like as if it starts as one and they gradually spiral out and apart from one another's two energies. And as they reach separation between the two is when life drops in. And so moving from unity to separation is what creates life. Yeah. So, okay. So that is the first part, is where's the template from? That is the template that is now governing our evolution and consciousness. And I'll show you how. So, or tell you how, since I can't show you. So we're going to break this interaction into 4 stages of creation. So think of this as like the 4 stages of breathing. We have the first, which is rest, which is where you're just at rest. And that's in the feminine energy. Then you begin your inhale, right? You bring in the masculine. And at the top of that breath, you are holding for a moment in what's considered suspension, right? This is when you're full of it. Your lungs are full, right? Absolutely full of energy. All of that energy is concentrated in the lungs. Then, and that's still the masculine, then you begin your exhale. And that the exhale is feminine, and then back to rest, which is feminine. So there's 4 stages to your breath. And these 4 stages are in nature and in all of life. You'll see those 4 same stages repeated literally everywhere. So you have the 4 stages of breathing, you have the 4 seasons, you have the 4 stages of living, which are birth, youth, middle age, old age. You even have, like in business, you have the 4-stage product cycle, which is introduction. You have growth, you have maturity, you have decline, right? You have these 4 stages in everything. You've got, winter, spring, summer, fall, everything. Anywhere where you have life, there is this period of rest. You have the period of the inhale, you have the period of suspension, and you have the period of the exhale. And it's every single place you look, and it is the template for life. So if it's everywhere, right, that it makes sense that 4-stage cycle of renewal in the body is the perfect way for us to relate to our own evolution and consciousness and its 4-stage cycle of renewal. So now let's show how this plays out. And you're saying you call that box breathing. Yeah, totally. I mean, it is like that. So the 4-stage cycle, if you think about our star system as being on a orbit, right? And that orbit goes around in an oval. And that orbit that it's in can be broken down into those same 4 stages of rest, inhale, suspension, and exhale, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, it's going around. And so then the big question is, okay, if our star system is orbiting, what exactly is it orbiting around? Like what's causing the orbit? What is it orbiting around? And the answer is that ours is a binary star system. that our sun has a mate, which is typically thought to be Sirius. And these are like two star systems that are connected, and the two of them orbit one another. So imagine you've got these two orbits that are going at, this is the graphic I wanted to show you. So I'll just draw it in the air with my fingers. The two orbits going around each other, right? And so now here's what's critical is imagine as we're going around that orbit, as we get closer and closer to the other star system, well, that's another star. As we get closer and closer to what we think of as Sirius, that star and our star, well, together, it creates a whole lot more light, right? There's more light available to us. And then as we move away from Sirius in our orbit, going further and further away, and Sirius moves away from us, well, it gets darker and darker. And light is a metaphor, and it is in actuality the reality of consciousness. So as we move closer to Sirius, more consciousness comes to the planet and to the star system. And as we move further away, we have less and less consciousness and more and less light, right? So it is literally, it's like we're just moving closer to a source of light and further away from a source of light. And that cycle can be broken down into these 4 stages. So that full rotation of getting closer and further away is estimated to be about 24,000 years. It's probably closer to like 25,800, but who's counting? So we call it 24,000 years to get around that full cycle all the way back to the beginning again, right? It's amazing, right? Amazing. So, and you can think about this cycle, this 24,000 year cycle is repeated in way, like tons of different traditions and ways of thinking. So you think about the 12 astrological signs. Well, those are the 12 astrological ages. So you always hear about like we're in the age of Aquarius, leaving the age of Pisces, the age of Aquarius. If you add those up, 12 different signs, each one 2,000 years, that's 24. That's 24,000 years. It also is part of the Hindu tradition with the concept of the not yoga. I'm having a mind fart. But anyways, they have the same concept of going through these 4 different cycles. It begins with a Y. If somebody can, Yuga, Kali Yuga, exactly. There's 4 different Yuga cycles. And somebody says Yugoslav. Yuga, yeah, exactly. So, and thank you for that. I'm better than PowerPoint. Thank you. At least I'm moving. You know what I mean? PowerPoints are a little static, so this probably worked out for the best. So this concept of 24,000 years, you will see it in many different places. And to me, that is one of the beautiful evidences of truth, is that when you hear truth, you typically are hearing it from a lot of different mouths, that a lot of separate people are getting the same thing. And crazy that they all define it the exact same way, right? A cycle, 24,000 years. Like it's so looking at that process, 24,000 years, where are we today in that process, right? We are currently, they say we're in the age of Aquarius. Well, in the 4 stages, where we are currently is as far away as we can get from that source of light, as far away as we can get from Sirius. So if you think about that cycle going around, when we are as close as possible to Sirius, as we're close on our orbit, we are at what we would consider to be 75% consciousness and 25% physical. And that would be when we are most in the greatest expression of our feminine energy, which is at rest. Then we would be moving, as we move along the cycle, we would move to kind of a 50-50 situation, right? Which is the inhale. Then we go all the way around to the bottom where we have as little light as we can squeeze into our solar system, our star system, I mean. And at that point, we would have 25% consciousness and 75% physicality. And we would be in the period called suspension of our breath, right? Which is the masculine, and that would be a masculine expression. And 50-50 is when we have half masculine, half feminine. Then we go into more of a masculine expression. Then we go back to the 50-50 of masculine and feminine, which would be the exhale. And then we go back finally to 75% consciousness and 25% physical expression. So that is where we are currently, is we are currently at 25% of consciousness. And this is not something to be, I think it's very easy to look at this and say, oh, we stink like that. We're in the worst place. And that's not it. Like there is a purpose to this. And the angels just talked about this, right? They just said, what are the lessons of the era that we're leaving? The lessons are separation. It's learning. How do we learn to be going into the next phase, which is going into unity? How do we learn to be in unity while maintaining our sense of self and our identity, right? To not lose ourselves as we move into that. So that is the lesson that we have all achieved by going through separation. So there's a purpose, and there's also other pieces to it. Like through this whole process, we've created the structures that will help us to grow as a civilization. So this cycle, you think is like we're moving in this cycle, but it's not just a pure, in terms of our evolution, it's not just a pure oval. I think of it as a spiral going up and up and up, right? And if we can take the lessons from every phase, we move upward on the spiral. And that's what we're trying to do. If we don't, then we just stay in this ellipse and we just keep doing over and over. And we have to go through the Stone Age again. If we are able to take what we learn, then we go upward and we begin to incorporate all pieces as we go, and we build, right? We build ourselves and become more and more fully expressed. Yeah. So, all right. So then let's go to the next, so you can imagine that trying to bring this back to the body for our own understanding, that we inhale and express the masculine by expanding, pushing outward. So here's that energy of expansion. And then we shift and we exhale and contract and return to the feminine state, which is actually our natural state. If you're just hanging out, you are in your natural state of being feminine. It's the feminine energy, which is, as you know, has nothing to do with being a woman. We all have masculine and feminine inside of us. This is about like yin and yang. It's like two qualities of energy. So when you exhale, you contract and you are at rest. And rest is our natural state. So being in that feminine energy is actually the natural state of the universe. So our solar system, including Earth, has been inhaling for 12,000 years. And we are now shifting to begin to exhale and return to the feminine, right? Does that make sense? And you're saying there's a question in the Q&A. Let me go to the Q&A. Hold on here and see. Oops, I said, okay, let me look here. And you've got, are these all questions in the Q&A? Did I do this correctly? Put your questions here. I would like to see your questions. And there's a lot of questions about, and so Ginny says, I just want to know what the effect of the shift will have on oppressive regimes, North Korea, Iran, etc. If you could ask Anne that one, I would appreciate it. So, okay, great. So I definitely want to get into what your guys' questions are, because I know there's a lot, because there's so many big questions. I can tell you that, and actually I think let's go through the presentation and then I'm going to come into the Q&A, because some of them will be answered by what we'll be talking about. And I think it will help to understanding the energies. You get to a place where you will have the answer to a lot of your questions, because everything, it's like dominoes. You hit one and everything else falls. So let's go into it first, and then let's come back to the questions. So we are, as I said, shifting, going back into the feminine. So this is our current stage. What is our current stage? It is here. It is at this stage of, we're heading into the age of Aquarius. We are pivoting, and we have been in this state of 25% consciousness, 75% physical. We have been having more expression of our masculine versus our feminine, right? But to really understand what that means for us and how we are changing, we have to have a really good understanding of the differences between masculine and feminine energy. So let's go into that now. So the natural flow of the universe is feminine, right? Towards entropy, which is that idea of relaxation and letting go. So think of the exhales, that you kind of let the body falls. And entropy is that idea that if you let anything sit, it will gradually fall apart. So an entropy, what entropy describes is the dissipation and diffusion of energy. Entropy doesn't describe necessarily things falling apart. It is the movement from energy being concentrated in one thing to being spread out everywhere evenly. So imagine that you have air, you have a gas that's held in a balloon. Well, that would be masculine energy, because all that energy is concentrated in the balloon. And then if you open the balloon, pop the balloon, that energy then just dissipates and it will fill up the space that you're in. It'll flow out into the room. It'll kind of go everywhere evenly. And that's feminine, that dissipation, diffusion, where it just kind of spreads out until there's equilibrium. It's seeking, feminine energy is seeking equilibrium, equal. It's trying to get itself equally everywhere. It will go to any spaces where there's a void and fill it, right? And that's what feminine energy does. So it goes from concentration to diffusion. That is what entropy actually is. It's dissipation of and diffusion of energy specifically. So it is that idea that anything that you have, if you just leave it, that, you know, all the movies that we say that are like the world is ending, and they show it like if you come back and see New York City like 50 years after a nuclear, there's like, you know, like things are falling apart and there's like ivy growing and plants coming up out of the pavement. And it's that idea that anything you leave for a while, eventually nature takes over, is that it falls apart. And this is that idea that it shows up in our lives, entropy does, as a movement away from order and structure. So it's not just in the idea of nature taking over, it's in every way. Every way that there is order, every way that there is structure, entropy is the natural force of the universe. And it will gradually make things relax and break down and fall apart and return to nature, just like our bodies, right? As we get older, we become more relaxed. Our bodies break down. we return to nature, right? We become worm food. So it's like that idea but this applies to everything, not just nature, like I said, but also order and structure. That it takes conscious energy to constantly maintain those things. That just think about in your house, that if you don't actively do the dishes all the time, the dishes will just pile up like crazy, right? If you don't do the laundry all the time, it will take over the house. And that's entropy. That you have to constantly push against the forces of entropy with your masculine energy in order to keep order and structure in your life. And so that is sort of like that's pushing that boulder up the hill, right? That we constantly have to exert the masculine to keep the feminine energy, that natural flow where the feminine is like, here I am. We have to keep saying, not all the way, like be, but not everywhere. Like, yes, I want the dirty dishes, but just one at a time, keep it in check. And that's what we do. So the point of entropy, the point of it isn't destruction. And I think that's where we get confused when we talk about feminine energy, is that it's not that, it is distribution, right? It's taking energy out of the specific and it is integrating it into the whole and using it. This is the key part, using it to grow the collective. So it is taking energy out of the specific and using it to grow the collective. So the distribution, right? Distribution is taking energy out of the specific. So that could be, examples of this could be like taxation is one way that we take energy and money out of the pockets of individuals, and we hopefully distribute it everywhere where everybody can share it by building roads and doing things that are hopefully for the best of everyone. Charitable giving is a way that we take things that from our pocket and we share it with others, right? That we spread that money out, we spread that energy out and try to give it to where the void is, where is it needed, right? Decomposition in nature, that idea that you take the energy that's contained, in a plant and you gradually decompose it and spread that out and it becomes energy that feeds many plants, right? Or rain is an example where you have all that energy stored in the ocean and then it goes up and it becomes rain, and it's rain down in tiny little droplets that spread evenly over large surfaces, right? Over the whole planet, or wherever it goes. Right? So rain would be an example of it distributes the energy of the ocean. So the key with this concept, and then to compare that, is that masculine energy works to generate energy and consolidate the needed resources to direct, this is key, to direct, organize, and provide structure needed for specific expansion. So masculine energy and feminine energy are equally super important. And without them, we couldn't exist. We have to have both, hopefully in equal and balanced measure. But that masculine energy is generating energy because, right, it's the inhale. It has to create force. It has to start things. And in doing so, it's starting to gather and collect and all the resources that you need to build something. And so it's going to direct, it's going to organize, it's going to provide the structure, and that is to expand something specific. And that something could be a person, a project, a house, a company or business, a network, right? A country, a family, a partnership. It could be anything that we use, any specific thing you want to grow, you got to use masculine energy to do it. So the idea then, if we go back to the breath and we look at these two energies, if you expand the lungs, breathing in, expanding the lungs, you're using your masculine energy, then it moves the blood, which is going to be exchanging it, which distributes oxygen to the rest of the body, which is feminine. So we have the expansion, we have the exchange in the blood, and then the distribution in the feminine. So you can also say that carbon monoxide, the reverse, is also true. Carbon monoxide is concentrated in the blood, which is masculine. It moves to the lungs for exchange, which is creation, and is distributed out to the trees, right? So our carbon dioxide goes out and creates life for the trees, expanding from the singular to the many, to the all, right? So it's a constant cycle that's repeated like in the every little tiny bit of our lives. So so when you are awake, so which is the masculine energy, you are out in the world having experiences. When you fall asleep, then you are in your feminine at rest, and you subconsciously integrate all those experiences to your whole being, right? You bring them up to your higher self. So it's again, it's taking the specific, which is your day, and sharing it with the collective. So so as I was saying, your feminine energy, that entropy never ever stops flowing. It's just like a constant flow that just never gives up. And your masculine energy has a seriously uphill battle to try to go against that natural flow of energy of things falling apart. So it has to try and balance or resist the natural flow of energy, which can often overwhelm you. If you look in your own life and say, where are the things in your life that you have a hard time keeping in order, keeping in check? And you can say, there's a lack of masculine energy over there. Like, like, where's your mess? And you can say, I need a little more masculine in that space, and that's kind of how it works. So in a nutshell, important part, this is like the main thing. If I was going to like tattoo this on my forehead, it would say masculine energy does things that are needed for growth and expansion of the part, of the singular, of the one thing. So it's great for growth. Whatever you want to grow, you need your masculine energy. But then feminine energy does things that are needed for the growth and expansion of the whole, of the collective. So you can see how these two energies are at odds with one another, but how we need them both, because we can't grow the whole without structure, right? Without materials. It's like there has to be this give and take, which is why we go through this cycle of growth and release, right? Of expansion, contraction, because we have to inhale, collecting all the resources and creating the structure. And then once it's all in there and we reach that point of suspension, when it's like, okay, I can't hold anymore, then we have to turn around and we have to distribute it out to the whole and raise up everybody, right? And that's the idea. That's where we are. That's why this is so amazing to be alive right now, because we are at the fun part where it's like we get to hit the piñata, like all the stuff that's been gathered, that's been there for the good of the singular, gets to be given out to the many, right? So this is the cool time to be here. So yeah, does that make sense, you guys, without the slides? And so you're saying, dude, my feminine is the lack. LOL, I'm so serious. That's what has been going on with me. Oh, that's funny. So yeah, so okay. So now just to help this really sink in, and I think if that was, like I said, that's the one thing, that one thing is masculine grows the individual, the part, the one thing, and feminine grows the all. And then just imagine how those two things have to stay in balance. That because creation, in other words, anything you want to give birth to comes from the interaction of those two things. You cannot have life without both, right? Otherwise, you just keep collecting and collecting, and then it becomes stagnant, and that's death. Or you just keep spreading and spreading, and there's no structure, and then it loses its form, and it's death. You have to have both. So yeah, super, super interesting and important. So, okay, let's give some examples between these two so that it really sinks in and we're able to hold this. So and remember, these are both incredibly necessary and positive energies when they are used for their highest and best. So with masculine, we have order. With feminine, we have freedom. And so notice that those are both opposites, but they're both really positive. That order is wonderful. Freedom is wonderful. Too much of either one is just that, it's too much. But when they are in balance with one another, then magic happens. Order, freedom. We have structure and we have flow, both amazing, but in regulation with each other. Aggregation and dispersal. Expansion and relaxation, right? Too much is bad, but just enough is perfect. How about starting and finishing? Again, what's the point of starting if you don't finish, or vice versa? Doing and being. How about part versus whole? How about concentrated or distributed? How about self versus all? How about individuation versus oneness, which is like the great lesson of our time? How about physicality versus spirituality? And strength versus softness? So if you're looking at that, at those two things and how they feel together, right? How each one stands up against the next, and recognize that both are needed for creation and for life. So it is to me, it is a deeper experience of what these energies mean to us and where we are right now. So it brings us back to this concept of where we are right now, which is at this expression of energy that is at 25% consciousness, where we are at an extreme expression. We are no longer in that 50%, right? We have moved out to 25% consciousness, 75% physicality. So which means density, like we're deeply rooted in the physical at this time in our experience, right? Our consciousness is only 25%. So, and that is an overexpression of the masculine. So the challenge of this, right, is that for the last 12,000 years, we have benefited enormously from the development of our masculine energy as humanity, right? We have gone through the Stone Age, the Bronze Age, the Iron Age, the Industrial Age, the Information Age to create these structures that allow us to be having this conversation all over the world, right? Which is kind of amazing. And in that process, right, of 12,000 years, we've had this incredible benefit. But because of the fact that we have reached the point of suspension, where we've expanded to the point where we just can't hold anymore, where we're becoming toxic to ourselves. It's like if you hold your breath for too long, you can become toxic. So what happens now? Well, when we are at this stage of 75% conscious, or at the stage of 25% consciousness, here is the challenge. Think of it this way. When we are, and it's about the forces of light and dark in the world, that when we are at 75% consciousness, the forces of light and dark are actually separated. They are not together, right? That we can be born into unshakable balance, right? Into complete synchronicity and coherence. We are not, however, very physical. And as we move on this ellipse and we get to the place of 50% consciousness, at that point, that struggle between the light and the dark moves around us, and it becomes physicalized into society and into social units, right? And then as we continue moving down the ellipse, that struggle moves inward. It moves closer and closer and closer to us until finally it comes inside of us, right? And the dark shares the world with the light, and it's inside of us. And that struggle takes place within every individual. So rather than being outside of us, it becomes inside of us. And the challenge at this point is that we are now individually, each of us, experiencing that struggle between the dark and the light. Yeah. So what do we get when we are at this place of overexpansion, when we're ready to turn at 25% consciousness? We get imbalanced, exaggerated divine masculine energy. So what that looks like is you take the beautiful qualities of divine masculine, which, for example, would be order, and it becomes oppression. You get, rather than structure, which is beautiful, you get bureaucracy. It's an exaggeration, right? You start with aggregation, a beautiful divine masculine aggregation turns into hoarding, right? Expansion becomes overdevelopment. Starting becomes endless scrolling on social media, right? Doing becomes overworking, right? Part becomes divisiveness, right? Concentrated becomes inequality. Self becomes egoism. Individuation becomes selfishness, right? Physicality becomes materialism, and strength becomes aggression. So this just helps it to sink in, to understand that where we are today is in a place of over expression, and there's lessons in it, there's beauty in it, there's reasons for it, right? There's important things that we have learned as humanity by going through this experience. But now is the time to turn, right? To turn. So, and what we see this as 25%, if you just look at this evidence in all of society, that 25% consciousness, what it yields, what this exaggerated expression of the divine masculine yields oppression. So globally, women have only 3/4 of the legal rights that are given to men, right? Scrolling, think about that. Like the media attention span is now 8 seconds long. Inequality. So half the world's net wealth belongs to the top 1%. And overdevelopment, well, the Amazon deforestation rate hit 22%. So this is what it looks like. And this is where we get to the place where we become toxic. So it creates 25% consciousness, creates a diminishing quality of truth, right? Untruths pretend to be truths. Leaders forget that they're meant to serve others and they serve themselves instead. Dramatic inequality between the rich and the poor. People forget the real, which is spirit, and they worship the unreal, the superficial things, right? And then there's inequality between the genders. So this is where we are today. This is our challenge. So where are we going? All right. So you might be saying 12,000 years. That's like a really long now. That's like now, like 12,000 years. Like how long is it going to get to take us to get back to consciousness, right? How long before we get back into that experience of consciousness? And you're right. Somebody said back to balance, right? We're trying to get back to balance. So what I would say is that where we are now is at the point of exchange. Remember that breathe in, we get to the suspension and then we exhale. And we are at that moment where we are ready. And think of it as turning to face the light, like in an ellipse. We're going around that curve. We're turning around. And what happens when we turn around? We turn around and all of a sudden you feel the light on your face. And that experience, it doesn't matter how far you are away from the sun, right? Like it doesn't matter where and you are on the planet. That sun is really far away. You turn around and you face it and you feel the warmth. And it's that idea that we can be all the way here at the beginning of this journey back into balance. But just the fact that we have turned means that where we are headed is different. We are no longer trying to achieve the same goals. And that leads to an entirely different outcome and experience. So does it matter? 100%. And yeah, we'll be on this path. Here's the beautiful thing. We will be on this path for a while. We are here for the incredible moment of the turn, but then we get to enjoy it. We get to be it and be in it and be moving back closer and closer and closer into an experience of balance. So the idea here, we're going from the growth and expansion of the parts of the individual, of the corporations, of the one person, right, to the growth and expansion of the whole, of society, of the everyone, right? So think about this shift. As we turn to face the light, what this means is that the energy, our goals will shift, and that energy will shift away from the structures and methods of accumulation, right? So banking systems, political systems, government systems, education systems, media systems, anything that's about accumulating for the good of the few. And so you're asking about, like, what about, these incredibly rigid political regimes, that, yeah, if it's about the one, if it's about the benefit of the singular, then that's not supported. So as we turn and face the light, we are moving toward the process of diffusion, supporting the collective, supporting Earth. So we're looking at decentralization. We're looking at equality. We're looking at renaturalization, right? Entropy. We're looking at things returning back to nature and things returning and distributing out to the everyone. So by necessity, the structures in the world have to be flexible. They have to change. They can't be the way they've been. They can't be about serving just the investor. They have to be about serving the people, or they won't be supported. Right? If they're all about gathering and keeping and collecting, and there's no energy there to support that, it has to be about taking what's been gathered and learning to share it. Right? A very, very different perspective. So interaction or exchange between masculine and feminine energy is the force that creates life. So that's what we've been talking about. We are preparing to disperse the accomplishments of civilization into the growth of humanity, right? So we are ready to exhale. So that is why this is such an important and amazing time to be here, right? So the responsibility for that state of consciousness is held equally by everyone, right? Why? Because the struggle between light and dark is taking place in every individual. It's no longer outside of us, it's in us. So we are grappling within. So this experience right now of being at this state means that energy is the whole experience of being here, and the whole experience of the shift is trying to move back to the space where we grapple within, we work with our shadow and we move back into the light and get to the space where it becomes, where we are holding the light inside of us, right? Where we are trying to push it, push that dark outside of us. And we're trying to work with our own shadow. Yeah. All right. So does that make sense, everybody? Is that clear? All right. So let's talk about what we can do. So right now, the dark shares the world with the light, and that struggle is taking place inside of us. So the way that we turn and face the light is by confronting ourselves, is by looking at ourselves. It's about that's why we talk about turning inward, why it's so tempting, especially as there's so much chaos in the world. It's so tempting to send our energy out and to be sending out, like our prayer, which is powerful. And I'm not saying not to do that, because yes, do that. But also it's about turning inward and looking at our wounds, which is actually infinitely more powerful. So we turn the fate of humanity by confronting ourselves. So, and what is it that we are grappling with? Where do these wounds come from? And many of you know this, but I think it helps to just go into it more deeply, is that the wounds often come from previous lives or from our early childhood. So those past lives that we have, that which are your in the past, it was always like, which of your past lives are the most relevant to this incarnation? And those were the ones you would bring in. And then you would anchor them into this life in the period between the time that you were in utero and age 7. And the reason is because those are what's considered the programming years, that you start off mostly in delta brain waves as in utero, and then gradually you start using alpha and theta brain waves. And these are these incredibly, like, deeply impressionable brain states, which are usually used in hypnosis and meditation. And when you're a kid, those are the only ones you have. And you don't switch, right? Until you don't get the logic thinking until after age 7. So those early years, it's like when things happen, it writes directly to the hard drive. It writes directly to your subconscious. It soaks in. You're like a sponge. So these past life experiences that before we came here, we create a plan for our life. And we say, okay, I want to bring these things with me. I want to carry these into this life, and I want to heal them or work with them or experience them in a different way. So we make a plan by choosing the best mother and father for us to be able to bring those energies into our life. And then things happen, and they could be the most innocuous things. Like you could say, my mom and dad were awesome, I love them. But there was something that happened where someday, you got lost in a grocery store. Now you have a wound of abandonment, despite your parents' best effort. Or it can be that your parents were actually really, really tough on you in different ways, or that you had many of you had extremely difficult starts to life. And that leaves a mark, right? And then we spend the rest of our life trying to confront that. Yeah. So we anchor those in, like I said, by choosing our mother and father. And it doesn't matter if your father wasn't present in your life. My dad was not, especially at the beginning of my life. Later, he returned and came back and was present, but not until after. I think it wasn't until after like age 5. But even so, his very absence created the wound that I needed. So, and so we will anchor those in by the mother and the father that we choose. So for me, like the fact that my dad wasn't really present means that I had a lot of wounds that came from even before I was born. And they all showed up in my dreams. Before I knew how to read my dreams, I remember I was having dream after dream after dream about trying to check into a hotel. And some of them were nasty dreams. Like I remember one, I was trying to check into a hotel, and it was like I was in the room and it was in a junkyard, which gives you a sense of like the depth of this wounding, right? Is that I did not come into a happy spot. And that wounding for me is the thing that was like something that was cementing, bringing in an energy that I was meant to work with. And so, and then so we can talk some more about that. But for me, the way it manifested is that I then tried to overcompensate, right? Is that I tried to please by moving more and more into my masculine energy, trying to figure out what my parents wanted, right? Trying to be more of what I thought they wanted, which was, to be more male. So I moved out of my heart and into my head. And that became one of the biggest obstacles to my own growth, is that I closed my heart. I totally closed my heart. And I didn't even know what that was, right? I had no conception. And I have a picture in the slide deck of me as a little girl, and it's ridiculously cute. It's tragic to think that I peaked at age 5, but sorry, I can't share that picture with you. It's really cute. So we tend to think that we carry those wounds more on one side or the other. Like for me, I would think that I had most of those wounds on the masculine side. But as I went through my healing journey, what I discovered was that it's almost like you have the big wound, and then it's like you develop layers on top of it. It's almost like the skin grows over, and you're like, oh, I'm going to compensate for that by doing something else dumb. So then you get another wound over here, and you're like, oh, I'm going to be even more this way because I'm trying to make up for the fact. So you end up with this like crazy, you know, balancing act of all of these different influences, all these different layers. So it's the ways that we like retreat. How do we retreat? How do we cope? How do we overcompensate, right? And then also, what are the beliefs and expectations that we develop because of our childhood wounding? And those things all layer in to create this like really bad lasagna. It's just so many layers, which is why healing can be really confusing. And so once we wake up and we figure out, like, oh my gosh, like there's this truth about me, that finding, just trying to find and figure out those wounds, it can be the work of a lifetime. Like that is the kind of, that has been up until now, that has been the point, right, of being here. And the goal always is to become centered and balanced and connected, right, to be in flow. But honestly, like the number of people on our planet who have been able to achieve that in their lives, who have been able to get to that goal of being like balanced and centered and in flow, like they are so known. It's like we give them, special names. Like they're like, they're like saints and stuff like that. Like it was rare because we just didn't have as much support as we do now. And there is the potential for us all to do that now, which is kind of amazing, right? But it's hard. It has been hard. And one of the reasons is that it's been really, really hard to see ourselves. It's hard to see where those wounds are. Like the only way we really have, the only tool we have is reality, where we confront ourselves. But even in that, it can be extremely, especially once you've got the low hanging fruit, like once you've healed kind of those really obvious things, like continually picking the wrong partner or whatever it is, right? Once you heal the big stuff, then you get to these other layers and it takes a serious amount of focus and concentration to be able to just see where the wounds are. It's hard to perceive. And then, the other thing that comes in is that we don't really know how to change that. Say, for example, that you see something about yourself that you would like to change. You're aware you have a pattern, but you're really not sure how to let it go. Like even healers who are trained in specific methods, they may find that the methods they have work great on other people, but not themselves. Or it could be a thing where they work amazingly for these specific ailments or these specific issues, but not the one that they have, right? Because we are meant to help each other. So and to add to that quandary is that, say, for example, you start a healing process, it's often very hard to know if it's working or not. So you can go down a path and say, you're like, okay, I really need to work on this. I'm going to start a particular type of meditation. And there are people who have been meditating for 20 years and they are still dealing with the same issues, right? That it hasn't and you'll see that. You will see people who are on a very spiritual path. You will see spiritual leaders who are out there teaching and doing their thing. And when you look at them and you recognize, oh my gosh, that person's wounds are like glaring. They're like right there, that it's like super clear. That happened to me just recently as I was talking to a woman who I think has amazing gifts. And she's a very, very well-known spiritual teacher. And what she's bringing is beautiful. It's really beautiful what she's bringing to the planet. But she was talking about this new retreat center that she was opening. And she was saying like, oh, but she's like, but I don't live there. I don't have that was a gift. And it's a thing for everyone. And I don't have any money and I live in an apartment in the city. And it was her wounds around money were just in vivid, like glowing. And then somebody leaned in afterwards and didn't have any meanness about it, but she just said, oh yeah, she actually has a room here at the retreat center. This is her house. So it wasn't, there was clearly something there that she was not comfortable with the definition of somebody who had anything. And, comes from growing up in a family or in a life where you're told that having money is evil or having money is bad or whatever it is. And here's a person who spends her life trying to help others and who does, right? Who's on a very spiritual path, who has an amazing connection, but there are her wounds. So how do we know if what we're doing is working? How do we know? And that's a big challenge, right? What do we do? How do we help ourselves or have other people help us? It can be really discouraging. But that is why I think this time is so unique and why this time is so important is that we right now, being in the midst of this enormous shift in human consciousness, is that there is more support on the planet than there ever has been. Is that in the past, we only had access to those past lives which were relevant to this life. Unless you were granted very specific access to the Akashic records as part of your gifting, as part of your service to the world, most people only had access to those things that were relevant to the life. It would be like you only get these 3 keys and the rest are going to stay in the closet. This life is different. This life, it's open season. You can bring in everything. You can heal it all. You can go back through every last incarnation and you can wipe the slate and clean and clear up everything, which is incredible. It's an incredible thought, right? That you have this opportunity, which is unique to being on the planet, right? And so there's enormous support to help us do that. And the support is from the beings that are surrounding us, that are helping us, but it's in each other, right? It's in the amazing number of light workers that have come to the planet that are like waiting to share their gifts, right? That are here to help us. So this is a very unique time. So this is why right now the angels have brought forward Soul Convergence, this new program that I'm telling you guys about, is because the support is here, because the time is now, and it is critical that we do this grappling ourselves. So it is right now, this particular process, and the way that it came to me, it was through a great leap, because that's how it always works with me. It was give up. Before I had multiple different programs I would run. I was working in the Golden Circle, these other programs, been doing that for 2.5 years. And they said, okay, stop, stop doing that, no more. And so I had to stop, but I didn't know what was coming next. It's just give up. You have to make space. I made space. And then in my dreams, in my channeling, came this program. And they have told me that it has the potential to do, and it's hard for me to wrap my brain around, to be honest, but it has the potential to do instantaneous healing. It has the potential, if you are aligned, if everything is working in this direction, that has the potential for you to release something and have an instantaneous healing. And I think, why would they do that when healing has been so much a part of our journey and so much about learning? And it is still learning. We will learn through this process, but it's because now is the time. Like, now is the time to take the gloves off. Now is the time to clear so that we can turn and face the light, right? And so it's about guiding you. It's fast, but it's gentle, right? A gentle guiding you through those past wounds. And it's hopefully accomplishing years of concentrated healing, maybe even a lifetime of healing within this process. So the way that it works is by drawing all of those winds we were talking about, trying to bring those up into the present. So I have done these sessions, practice sessions, with the people who are part of what I'm calling the dream team, the group that's going to be helping me deliver this program. And the beginning of these sessions is like, the beginning is a slog. We're bringing up all this stuff, and it's about letting those feelings rise up gently, but letting them rise up to be felt. And it's trying to bring them up, all the mess, so that we can try to make them coherent, right? And the goal is to try to converge all those different aspects of you into alignment at your center, right? To bring them into the center, that idea, that balance that we're trying to find, which creates a clear connection between you and your higher self. So the potential of the program is to become fully centered and aligned with your own truth, right? To get that connection back to spirit. It's about really turning and facing the light. So from this, you can have a new set point. And this is what I think is the way that it manifests in our lives, I think, is the most exciting part, is that idea that as we are born, we are receiving, we bring in these wounds, we land these wounds, and it's like we have our access over here, kind of like the earth has its access on the side. And as we go through our life, there are times where we feel like, wow, I'm so in alignment. This is amazing. All the parking spots are showing up for me. And then you lose it and something happens and you're thrown back of alignment, because this is your set point, right? And you have moments of like blissful, awesome, and then boom, right? And by going through this process, you have the potential to move your axis back to here, which doesn't mean that everything is perfect always. It means that when things happen, like when something happens that throws you off, your natural set point is here. So you move back into balance. So you're freed from the heavy karma, right? That your new set points, it's about balance and harmony. You experience the world differently, right? Life flows more easily. You perceive less friction. So your life, the people around you may not change, but you are different around them. You perceive them differently. Life affects you differently. Nothing ruffles your feathers, right? That's the biggest difference, is you feel differently. And because you are experiencing and radiating that differently, different things come towards you, different experiences, different potentials. So like I would have never, I got to tell you, I would not have been ready to hold this energy until now. And that's why, like, everything's on purpose. I couldn't have done it before. It took, I had to continually work on myself, continually work to heal in order to get to a space where I was capable of holding the energy. And it's a process. And I know there's more growth for me to do. And this is going to be hugely growing for me too. So our resistance fades as you're going through this process. So things don't trigger and irritate you in the same way anymore, right? That struggle that might have characterized things where you feel like things are against you or like you can't make things work, right? That sense of like, it's a sense of things that you're trying to not have or not be or not do, which is resistance. And that's just fades. It becomes not a thing anymore, which is hard to explain, except it's just that. And I have experienced it. So I can tell you it's awesome. Were the things that really used to trigger you. And it's actually showed up for one of the people who did this in the practice sessions with me immediately after the first session. He saw his ex, and this is a person he had, traumatic, very traumatic relationship. And he said it was the first time he had ever been in her presence where he wasn't triggered. And and he had that experience of like, oh, wow, he just wishes her well. And that was like an immediate shift, amazing. So from that space, life is easier to navigate, right? That you find yourself drawn back into that balanced state. So one of the things I want to do with this program is I'm trying to recreate the things that have worked for me, to try to find the things that I found to be the most impactful. And one of those has been using my dreams. That I found that I was able to always know where I was on my healing journey, what I needed to heal next. So that whole question about how do we know if we're on path? How do we know if it's working? The way I do is through my dreams. And I see it in my reality, like that's a wonderful way, but your dreams are like a conversation. So they're kind of magic. And I wanted to make that available to you guys. So as part of this program, divine timing, it worked out perfectly. My dear friend Michael Sheridan, who runs the Ashling Dream Interpretation School, his method is, if you know it, it will take dream interpretation and make it a reality. It's no longer something that you have to stretch to try to believe. It's so true that you can't deny it, because it just repeats itself. The same symbols, showing different symbols that all say the same thing, showing up in every dream. It's like having the Rosetta Stone to your dreams. And so from him, I now am bringing into this program 16 dream analysts who will be available to you to do 4 private 30-minute sessions with you. So as you go through the program, the dream analysts are going to help you and show you what is it that's showing up in your dreams, showing you where you're changing, what's shifting for you, how this is showing up with you, and then help you to work with it so that you get even more benefit. And part of that is I really want everybody to have that one-on-one connection with somebody who's there to support you. So anyway, so that I think is going to be an incredible piece of trying to get the greatest impact we possibly can from this experience. So the whole experience includes, it's an 11-week program. The first 4 weeks, there's 2 sessions per week, 2 group healing sessions. And what those sessions are about is the way that they work is we go into a deep state of meditation. And then we will start bringing in, and with the angels, I'm channeling. I'm not usually in deep trance when I'm doing this. I'm channeling, but it's like I'm still conscious. I'm still present. It's a really different form of healing for me. They start drawing in and bringing in all of your wounding, everything that's ready, everything you are ready to release, that's anywhere near the surface. They start drawing it up. And this is some of the deep stuff, right? That it's your body is ready to process. It comes up. And then once it's all there on the surface and you're feeling the feels, then it comes in with a frequency of, it's like self-love. And that frequency, they just want you to hold it. It literally is like it's radiating inside of your body. And so if you can imagine that frequency being like a gong, that the goal of the program is to just keep that frequency resonating in your body for 11 weeks. That is the point. So that's why we're having the sessions twice a week. And that's why you will have recordings. The idea is to use those recordings as much as possible. So it's that idea, we just want to keep hitting that gong and just keep that frequency so that you are constantly being bathed in this energy of self-love, because that is what is going to help you to release all of the resistance to those wounds. So we start out, there's 4 weeks on the masculine. We do 4 weeks, and the sessions are intense. They definitely are intense. So 4 weeks of the masculine, there's 2 sessions, Saturdays and Tuesdays. Then there's a 2-week break because you need time to rest and integrate. And during this time, you can schedule your sessions with the dream analyst whenever you want to. And don't worry, lots of people have said, like, what if I never dream? Don't worry. We will be giving you some tips and tricks on how to remember your dreams. And then I will also do a healing on that to help clear anything that's in the way of you not remembering your dreams. But you don't need a lot of dreams. One dream in a 2-week period is enough to give you information that you need. So they're very, very rich conversations. So do not worry if you don't dream. There's simple things you can do. Some of those things are things like setting an alarm clock for 90 minutes, 60 to 90 minutes before you need to get up, and then going back to sleep. And that is when you're going to have your dreams, right? And it's enough of a sleep cycle. Sleep cycles are 90 minutes. If you set it 90 minutes before you're going to wake up, you will wake up and you'll be awake enough that as you go back in, you will remember. And there's several other tricks that we can use to help you to make sure you get at least one dream during the process. And hopefully you'll get lots, but one is enough. So you'll do 4 weeks of the masculine, a 2-week break from sessions in order to rest and integrate. And then we're going to start in with the feminine. And we do 5 weeks of feminine, again, twice a week with the recordings. And then you're using your sessions with your dream analyst. So that is the structure of the program. We start on October 28th at 10 a.m. Pacific, right? And then the sessions are on Saturdays and Tuesdays. So we end on January 9th. The last session is on January 9th. So that's the window from October 28th on every Saturday and Tuesday until Tuesday, January 9th, with a 2-week break in the middle. So the pricing for the program, I have a payment plan. The pricing is $14.99, a one-time payment. The 3-month payment plan is $575, and all of that is on my website, so you can find it there. And then I wanted to also let you know that there is a bonus to this, which I'm very excited to offer, because of the fact that once you're done with this program, what you will need is something that just keeps you there, that just keeps your energy clear, that keeps you there in that point of balance. So I'm going to include with this 4 months of peace bathing, which is a monthly session, group session, which is all about keeping you in that angelic energy and keeping you in, like, it's like an infusion of love once a month. So you will get that as part of it. And that's normally, that would be a $200 value. So just so you know. And then as part of that, you also get all of the transcripts for, during that 4-month period that you're in the peace bathing, you will get all of the transcripts from my Friday Live messages. So, and that, you can find out about the program. It's on my website. It's anntucker.com Soul-Convergence. All right, Soul Convergence. So, all right, so let's dig into your questions. Let's go ahead and look and see what you guys have in here. All right. Okay, so, oh my goodness. Okay, I love it. Oh, I love it that you guys are asking. This is so awesome. Okay, we have, let's see if I can see that one. And where do I start? I'm going to start down here. Oh, you're saying, okay, I can't attend some of the dates, and it's not a problem. If you can't, if you want to come to the program, even if you have to miss half, it's all right. The reason for that is that I've deliberately scheduled it. It's like the banging that gong. As long as you are listening to the recordings, you will be just fine. So you could even do this without coming to any of the live sessions. And as long as you're using those recordings regularly, you will be in the money. So it's just that idea of maintaining that frequency constantly. And so think about it. It is a commitment of time, because you want to be able to spend time with the recordings. And so if you find that you're busy and you can only do it 3 times a week, that's okay. If you're doing the 2 live sessions and then 1 recording, or if you're doing 1 live session and 2 recordings, that's okay. Just know that the more the better is the message. The more the better. But do not worry if you cannot make a couple live sessions. The recordings, the way the angels work with me is that the recordings serve like a portal. And there's frequency that are carried in the recordings. So they open up that portal, and they were able to come through and work with you as though it was a live session. So you are receiving the same benefit. So thank you so much for asking that. And you say, well, I have UK friendly times. It's at 10 a.m. Pacific, which works out well for the UK. I am so sorry for those of you in Australia and other parts of the world that I may offer another session. If there's a lot of people from Australia, we could potentially add a second session that was later, or maybe we'll run it again in 2024 at a later time. But this one I specifically timed as 10 a.m. Pacific, which I think times out in the afternoon for you on the east in Europe. And then let's see, I don't know if I already, are the aliens working in cooperation with the angels to help humanity in the ascension? Yes, and I believe the angels gave us a message about that. They don't talk a lot about aliens, but they did talk about that there are, yes, there are definitely other beings here to help us for sure. And you're saying, what if you don't always remember your dreams? So I hope that answered that about the dreams. Like I said, it's super okay. And here's the thing is the healing will work for you no matter what. The healing will work regardless. The dreams are there to support you in the process and to help. They will help you because they help with the awareness piece. And sometimes awareness is honestly all you need. Sometimes you become aware of something and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to stop doing that thing. So the dreams are really, really powerful, but the healing will work regardless. So if you are a person who does not dream very much, don't worry that we will support you in the dreams. We're going to give you some tools. And like I said, I will do a healing. And then we're like, talk to your guides. They will help you also to remember your dreams. And the dreams, as soon as you commit to something like this, your dreams will shift and change. It's almost like that, what I was talking about jumping off the cliff, that when you sign up for something, when you commit to something, the resources show up for you. It's like they just wait for us. They're waiting for us to make a decision, to make a choice, right? And then when we do, all of a sudden, then all the forces come to support us. Is this a group healing? Yes, the one-on-one is with the dream analyst. So you will have the 4 experiences with the dream analyst, 4 sessions, and you can schedule those on your own time. So there are dream analysts in all different parts. We have some from every part of the world. So you'll be able to find times that work for your schedule. And then what is happening in Israel part of this change? The message that we got from the angels yesterday was absolutely about that, Carlos. So you might want to check that out. It was definitely, and yes, absolutely. It's an energy of exhaustion where they're trying to exhaust these energies and bring up the fear that we each have inside of us. So I can't say it as beautifully as they did, but definitely listen to yesterday's Friday Live message about that question. It's a beautiful one, beautiful message. Say something for the Lightwork community here in Israel, please. Oh my goodness. Yes, sending definite love, absolute love to the Lightworkers. I'm so sorry what you're going through. Absolutely. Let's see. How can I get clarity if the path I am choosing? And I also say, please do listen to the message from yesterday because it will speak to, hopefully it will speak to you as well, and honor the role that you're playing there. And say, how can I get clarity if the path I'm choosing is the right one? I was on a few so far that I thought were shown to me just to learn that I'm alone on this path and no one needs what I'm offering. Oh, I'm so sorry. What I would say is really, really interesting. I think that the crazy thing about choosing a path and like, what is my purpose, is that often our purpose is many things. And we frequently will like look to our guides and say, just tell me what I'm supposed to do. I just want to know what I'm supposed to do so that I can do it and it will work. And the answer that I have found is that when I ask that, I get no response, because we are the team captain. We are the captain of all of the support that's here for us, and they cannot make a move until we choose. And so they wait, basically. They'll stand around and wait until we tell them where to go. And then it becomes, how much of our energy have we committed to that path? So if we have committed to a particular path, but we have a lot of fear, if we feel like, okay, I'm going to do this, but I probably should have done that other thing because I think I'm wrong, because I think I'm not good enough, because I think all these things, then it's like the energy that we have left to put towards the thing we're trying to create gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And so it becomes harder and harder for it to work. And then we think it's meaningful. We think like, oh my gosh, I chose the wrong thing because it's not working. When in fact, it's a process. And it's about showing up. It's about continuing to show up. And what you find is that you succeed because you just keep coming every day. And that is the truth for me, that when I first started, I can't tell you how many things I thought were the wrong turn. And I did went in one direction and I kind of pivoted and went this way and that way. And I would say the key for me was just to try to listen to my heart and to always ask the question, what is fun for you? What do you want to do? What brings you joy? What makes you happy in that work? I'm not saying it's always going to be happy. There's stuff I have to do as part of my work that isn't fun. I still have to pay taxes. I still have to do bookkeeping and stuff. But when I'm thinking about a new program or thinking about a new offering, like the reason I do retreats is because I love hanging out with you guys. It's fun for me. I love it. It makes my heart happy. And so that's how I know I'm on the right path. And it's also aligned with the work and the meaningful work, the work that makes me feel like I have a purpose in the world. And so once I commit to that fully, then the resources align. But is it easy right away? No, I have to keep showing up. And I find what doesn't work. And I got help, right? I got a lot of help helping me to heal. And the healing, like I had a lot of wounds in my masculine energy. I was mentioning that. And if my masculine energy was wounded, I could not have a successful business. That you cannot put yourself out in the world without the structure of masculine energy. And if your masculine energy has like one wing down, like it's just not going to work. It doesn't matter if you were on the right path. So it's a process of doing the two things, of like listening to your heart, commit to that path with the idea that you're going to learn along the way and adapt and learn along the way. Then just keep showing up and showing up and showing up and heal. Every time something doesn't work, look at that and say, what about me didn't believe in this? Or what about me is creating this, right? And then work to try to heal that. And that's the way. And the more clear I get, the better my life is. And I will give you an evidence of this, about the fact that you got to heal, you got to engage and you got to heal, is that, so after my divorce, I didn't date for like 4 years. I was like, no way. Did not date 4 years. And I had been working on myself for a long time. And then shortly after that, like I'm still healing. And then like the healing dreams kind of stopped. And I started having dreams about other people and dreams about work and dreams, but no more healing dreams. And I was like, yay me, like I'm done. I healed. I'm finished. And I thought that was amazing until I started dating again. And then the healing dreams kicked in again. And what I learned was that we can only dream about a particular wound when we are actively engaged in confronting it. So if I had gone the rest of my life without dating, I would have never healed those wounds. So it's only by engaging in the things that are hard for us that we heal. So what happened is, so I was using Match. I was dating on Match, and I would turn on Match, and I would like wait till I met like 2 or 3 guys I was interested in, and then I would turn it off again, and then I would just focus on those. And what I found is that I would go on a few dates with each, and I found that I would do that. All 3 of them would trigger me in the exact same way. It would be the same wound, all 3 of them. It was wild. And my dreams would show it too. And they would be like, yep, here's the wound. And so then I can heal myself now working with the angels. So I would heal it. And then, and I would just kind of rest a bit. And then I would turn on Match again. And I would meet 2 or 3 other people. Same thing, turn it off again, date them, see the wound, heal it, and then do it again. And I went through 3 rounds like that. And at the end of the 3rd round, I had a dream where I was in a bathtub facing a man, and I had a scrub brush in my hand, and it's gleaming white bathtub, except for one big red stain. And I look down at the stain, I'm holding the scrub brush, and in the dream, I bend down and I scrub, and I pop up and I look at the guy, and I look down at the stain, and it's still there. It's lighter, but it's still there. So then I get down and I scrub, and I pop up again, and I look at him, and then I look down one more, still there. So one more time, scrub, I pop up and see him, and that's the end of the dream. And the dream was showing me that I had been through 3 rounds of healing, and now I was ready. So what's amazing about that, and then here's that last little tidbit of that interesting to me, hopefully it's interesting to you too, story, is that, so then I thought I was ready, right? I'm like, wow, now I'm going to meet the guy. And then I meet this guy who I thought was what I was looking for. And it was only after going on a couple of dates with him that I realized he was what I thought I wanted, right? My concept of what I wanted was out of date. And it was based on who I was a long time ago. And I was looking at that time for someone very conventional. And I am now very unconventional, right? Like I'm the lady who channels angels. Like I am not conventional anymore. And I realized it was just a complete not fit. And so it took me realizing that last piece of awareness. And then I was ready to meet somebody that I could have a meaningful relationship with. And now I'm in one. But it just shows that idea is keep showing up, keep trying, and then heal. Use it as a process for healing. And it will yield beautiful results in your life. And don't necessarily say just because something's not working that you made the wrong choice. Like in my opinion, it's very few things that are the right choice. Like your life could express in 5 different ways. And the thing that's going to make it the right choice is because you commit your energy to it. And that is your energy being put towards something is the thing that makes it grow. So the thing that makes it the right choice is the fact that you're flowing towards it, right? So yeah, I hope that helps. So so you're saying, what can someone do to experience something through meditation? I want to meditate to become financially free, to continue my healing process. I usually black out or nothing happens while I meditate. Oh, isn't that interesting? So you just fall asleep during meditation. So I would try guided meditations if you're trying to do it on your own, like to try to stay awake. The other thing is you may do better with walking meditation, which is something that I use, is that you don't have to necessarily be sitting still during meditation. A walking meditation is one where your body is moving, but your mind is let your mind wander. So you could do that by doing, if you do a repetitive, like washing dishes, if it's something you can do where you, like your hands are busy and your mind just floats. I do it. I have an elliptical machine and I can put my hands on it so I don't fall off. And I meditate on the elliptical because it keeps, I'm moving, the energy is flowing, and I'm not like, doing like crazy CrossFit on it. I'm just, going slow, but it's a beautiful way for me to do a walking meditation. So maybe think of that, try a walking meditation and see if that works better for you. You say, what if I don't feel like I have something big to heal, only the ego to train? Like phenomenal if that's the case, but I guarantee you there'll be treasures in there. Because if that was like, if you came with nothing, then it's like, okay, where is your learning? And if there's ego, there's going to be something in there for you. And so that's going to be the benefit, I think, of doing the dream work will show you where the wounds are. And it's true, there are some people on the planet who came to have kind of a rest life, who came to just kind of have they're on the cruise ship version, and like before you get super jealous of those people, like I don't know how many people are here on the cruise ship version. There are people who are doing that. But even for those people, there will be triggers in their world, or there'll be things they could do that are more of service, or there'll be advice still always. They will always have access to their guides. So yeah, so it's really trying to tune into that and to see how it can direct you. But I think it's like, my thought is that there's if there's nothing popping up, there'll be things you can access that you can heal, because it's such a rare opportunity to be here, that it's such a chance to bring forward everything, to work on it, that there's always growth for us. And I always say that if we were perfect, we would be one with source, right? So I know I still have like stuff comes up for me, and it's like it's the layers, it's all the little pieces, something that triggers me. Oh, I got to work on that. Yeah. What if I don't remember much of my childhood? Will manifesting be harder? Not at all. So you don't have to remember stuff to heal it at all. As a matter of fact, in this process, in the soul convergence process, there will be stuff that that comes up that you will feel just as an emotion, and you will have no memory of it. And there's no need to necessarily drag yourself back through the memory. All you need to do is let the feelings come up. The emotions are the language of the universe. So that's what matters, is to bring. So you may have like, why am I feeling grief? Like, oh, I don't know where this is coming from. That's okay. You don't have to identify it. If anything, getting too stuck in the mind, trying to label it or give it a name, can take us out of the experience. So it's that idea of just letting it flow, letting emotion, and sometimes you'll feel it physically. It'll be like, oh, I feel a constriction or a binding, right? That's how because my heart was so closed and I was disconnected in the beginning, that was how I experienced my healing. Was I would be like, oh, I feel a density, or I feel it. And then gradually it was hard in the beginning for me to identify feelings. If you can imagine, it's hard for me to even imagine that now. But at the time I really had a hard time naming what I was feeling, because I was so disconnected from my heart. But at the time, I really had a hard time naming what I was feeling, because I was so disconnected from my heart. Yeah. And then you say, what if I don't remember? Oh, sorry. You're saying bypassing. How do we send prayers without feeding the darkness? Is it via intention? Or if I hear war, then I make sure I clean up any war within. So I think any prayer that you send is going to be just what I would suggest is to send love, to send loving energy. Because here's the thing, is there's definitely going to be negative energies that are part of any war, but there's also going to be some people there that are working through their karma, that have taken on a role in this life of playing out a very, very negative role on purpose because of some karmic choice or decision that they made for themselves. And so we want to send love to every side of a conflict. And that's sort of the balm, right? And then like send love,
and then turn within and heal. And I think to me, that is the way that we find peace. And you're saying, but guys, okay, I like wearing feminine clothes. Of course, like wear what makes you happy. Like listen to your heart. That is like I said, the emotion of the universe. How do you express yourself? That's going to be what matters. It is looking in your heart. And so, maybe part for your journey is getting to the space where you feel like that's okay. Like feeling like you can look at yourself, like looking inward and not judging that part of yourself. And that's hard for all of us. Everyone here can relate to that, how we judge ourselves in different ways and feel like we're not okay the way that we are. So that may be the way that you chose in this life to experience that feeling. And so I would just really encourage you to go inward and say, what's wrong with how I am? Nothing is wrong with how I am, right? Why am I judging myself? Where does that come from? And to love it, love that child inside of you that just wants to be free, Yeah, giving to others at the health and wellness and well-being of the self. Is that an overexpression of the feminine or masculine? Oh, such a good question. So over-giving is going to be an expression of masculine energy, right? Over receiving, when we feel like we just need to, to be given stuff, like to be on the receiving end all the time, that would be overexpression of the feminine. But yeah, so that's overexpression of the masculine. And you might even say that it's hard for you to receive, I guess. I would guess that. So yeah, so that would be a masculine wound. And that would have been absolutely my thing too. Would have been like, I would have put myself last. I would overgive in every situation. I was always trying to help everybody. And I still love to help. That's how I'm built. But now I understand that there's balance and reciprocity in every situation, and that I always have to feel cared for in return. You know what I mean? That there has to be that mutual love. And yeah. Have you traced the 12,000 year cycles through history for corresponding upheavals or mass changes? I haven't. I don't know how far back does history go? I am not a history student, so I haven't traced it. But I can say that if you look back at like the most brutal, like go back 2,000 years, we're not even part of the way. Like, here's the beginning of our calendar, and we're not even close towards the 12,000 years. But you can look back through that whole process and see it's been a constant expression of the masculine, getting stronger and stronger and stronger in our recorded history. And our recorded history only records the period in which the masculine was in overexpression. We don't have really, we talk about Atlantis and we talk about the others, and those were probably, like I have heard that there was a period in Egypt that was where it was a matriarch. And so that was a period where they were anticipating this change. So interesting question, but we don't have anything recorded that I'm aware of that talks about anything like that. Yeah, I wish there was. A question is from Dar S. Will you be channeling the angels live? Oh, today I had not planned on channeling live today. I'm planning on just answering questions today. But in the healings, I will channel the angels live in the Soul Convergence program. So it will be live. I will be with the angels in those sessions. I have to be, when I'm channeling, I have to be like, it's very hard to switch from doing something like this and talking about logic stuff to go to channeling. It's like it's like I'm in different sides of my brain, and it's hard to just go flip flop. Why is it that we have to keep learning? We've learned enough that love is the answer and what fear yields. Why can't we be given an opportunity to experience heaven on earth now? I wish it was that easy. I wish it was a thing where it was like, okay, we've done enough and we've suffered enough. And I think it's that situation where the angels speak to us, it's hope. And I think it feels like that you need that a little bit of angelic love right now, that you need that message of hope, that you're going to be okay, and that things will work okay for you. And just to understand that everything that is happening is of service, that it's all here, like in the most loving way, it's all here to bring us towards something, to bring us closer to who we are. There is energies coming to the planet that are going to play a major role in helping us turn, right? This big flash of light. It's almost like we talk about in Soul Convergence, how there's this gong. We're going to be bringing this frequency. There is a giant frequency also coming to the planet, right? That will help all of us. And so there's support on so many levels, and that support will work for you too. So things will get better for you. Yeah. When grounding, I used to go to center of earth and it was warm red color. Now it is white. Ooh, how interesting. New as of last week. That's super fascinating. So you're experiencing a change in how the earth shows up for you. I think definitely we can say that we are reaching a period right now where things are accelerating. So you could say they were going from red hot to white hot. And I think that would be fitting, is that we are entering a period of white hot. Like we've got multiple wars going on. We've got massive floods and fires, and like it's getting white hot. So that's how I would read it. Yeah. Where does it come, the combination of the masculine and feminine, like the Trinity neutron? I hope I understand that. Where does it come from, the combination of the masculine and feminine? It is, I see that as, so think about in the beginning when we were talking about the breath, and that these are two energies that in the beginning, before there was breath, when it was source and source alone and nothing else, and nothing was being created, everything was equal, and there was no masculine and feminine, right? Everything was one, it was all. And then there was breath, and masculine, which starts things, started with that expansion, and then feminine was the contraction. And it was that exchange, that interaction was what created life. So that is the interaction. It is the process of expanding, gathering resources, and then spreading those out to the collective. So, which allows for growth, right? And so that is life. Life is growth. And so it is growth of something specific through the expression of masculine energy, and then that expansion and bringing that out into the world. So just like the birth of the child that comes out into the world. And you're saying, makes so much sense. Oh, awesome. I went to sleep often during the day, more than usual. Is this because of the huge downloads we are getting? It definitely can be. If you are feeling more connected, I know that when I shift to when my connection changes, when I'm starting, like if I'm getting a deeper connection with the angels, it will, or if I'm doing a lot more channeling, I will have to sleep a lot. Like in periods where I signed up to do like 2 programs at once, and I was doing a lot of sessions, and I was so exhausted between every session, I would just sleep. So definitely these increased energies can have an impact on you as you're just trying to assimilate, and you just have to rest. It's tiring. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So how does the eclipse today affect the energy? Yes. And both eclipse. Yes, because they're going to affect, they're like waves. Think of them as like, waves of like a breeze that comes through that affects everybody in different ways, but it also affects countries. It affects, politics. It affects everything. So yeah, so we will see the ripples, and eclipses bring chaos, which chaos is an opportunity for change. So we definitely have, be anticipating these last months of this year are going to be crazy pants. So, and they already are crazy pants, but it could be just more of crazy. Yeah. The angels say soon, using 70 years as an average human lifetime, and each year containing 12 months for the angels to use as a time reference. Is it possible for them to narrow things down? They never give me specific time frames. They rarely, like they said in the recent one, they talked about something on the horizon. The one time they talked about, I can't remember, they use these really cryptic references. Like one time they said, oh my gosh, if I can remember this one, it was the time of double. Who remembers this? It was like they said it would be the time of the double or triple. I can't remember. Anyways, it's hard for me to remember sometimes what they say. But yeah, unfortunately, like for them, all time is now. And it's like in the same way that we just don't have access to certain states of being, they don't have access to our state of being, to time. And so they just, when I ask, I don't usually get helpful answers. They'll give me really vague answers. Yeah. So, just amazing. How can people not know there is something more? I know, right? I know. I feel that way too. How can we create more masculine energy to level the feminine energy? So that is something you do through healing. So that is in this process. That is exactly what we're doing, is we are healing first the masculine wound and then the feminine wound. The reason we do the masculine energy first is because you need that first. It's the support. It's the thing that the feminine stands on. So you got to heal the masculine first, and then you work on the feminine. So, and that depends. Like some of you will see that your feminine wound is larger or whatever, but in terms of this process, we start with the masculine. But that is how. Come join my program, and it will heal you. It will work with you to do that. It will help you to heal. In truth, we all heal ourselves, but this facilitates you with your healing is what it does. So we are all empowered in terms of the actual release comes from us specifically. Yeah. And this is a process to facilitate that. So when at the top of the spiral, are we in a new dimension? That is such a good question, because it's like that idea people talk about, 3D, 4D, 5D, like we perceive things differently when we get to this new. So it's almost like we're in the same place, but our awareness stretches. We can take in more, we can see more, we can understand more. We can tap into perceiving new dimensions. So in that sense, yes, because consciousness is everything, our consciousness can expand to hold new dimensions. I hope that answers that. Yeah. Is it just us or the solar system or the universe is what? I'm sorry. In terms of everything, the energies, the masculine and feminine, emanate to everything and everywhere. It comes from source. So it would be everything. If that's what you're asking, I hope I'm answering that correctly. But yeah, but these patterns, think about everything that's true on Earth is true everywhere. It ripples out everywhere. So we can look at our own body as a template for what the whole universe is like. Is feminine positive and masculine negative? I would say the opposite, actually, that feminine is more like the void and masculine is like masculine is what exerts, is what starts, is what creates energy. So on the battery, it would be the positive side and the feminine would be the negative side. So the sun would be masculine, the moon would be feminine. The day is masculine, the night is feminine. So it's that idea of anything that is rest, that is about dispersal, letting go, is feminine. How will the status of women be affected by the shift? It is already changing. The status of women is already changing. Like, look at the way that we are. I'd say one of the biggest things that affects the status of women and the status of all peoples is that we are moving to a time where we will have deeper, like, telepathy, where an emotional telepathy, where we are able to understand one another and feel each other's feelings. And so when we have that, it is very, very, very hard to ignore the rights of other people when you feel their hardship, when you feel the impact of what you're doing, right? And so to me, that changes everything. It changes how you negotiate. It changes how people make decisions when you feel them like you feel your own feelings. So to me, that is where we're headed. And that's, to me, I feel like we can't help but have a more peaceful, equal world. And you're saying, I have been feeling pushed out of working for big corporations, but I am a single mother and have to make income. Is now a good time to start a business for myself so I can be at home with the kids? What a great question. So what I would say, Amanda, is that it absolutely can be. That I would say to follow see what lands in your lap if you decide to do that. Follow where things are easy for you. Look at what is adjacent. What are the skills adjacent to the things you've been doing that you can then turn around and use those for yourself. So, and then grow from there. Like, understand that the first thing you do, you may say, well, I've been working as, in payroll and I want to go into healing or something like that. And those are not necessarily next to each other. But look at payroll and say, okay, maybe I can be a consultant helping people in this particular way. And then in my consulting practice, maybe I start to bring in meditation practices. And then I start to work with those people more deeply. And then I become a healer. So it's a thing where it doesn't have to be an all at once shift. It can be a thing where you are making adjacent changes and moving towards. And so, yeah, I would say it is a good time. And now you're thinking about it. I would not be at all surprised if the eclipse was hitting you in a space around your career and work. So it would be curious for you to take a look at that, because if that's the case, then it would be a fated event, a fated change. So kind of like, you gotta do it. So check and see whatever your rising sign is, see how the eclipse is affecting you, because that would give you a lovely indication that having these feelings right now is purposeful. Yeah. Are we still in polarity in 5D? We're being asked to maintain our personality and not lose ourselves. Yes. Polarity, the idea of polarity, of having the duality, always exists, because without duality, nothing happens. So a lot of times it's really interesting. The angels, when we do peace bathing, the angels bring us up to the vibration of peace, the frequency of peace. And peace means nothing happens. Peace is total and just calm, like nothing. It's like almost like emptiness. So when you're in peace, there's nothing to distract you. So they love to bring us to that frequency when they're doing healing on us, because when we're in peace, all we feel is ourselves. There's no outside influence. There's nothing to distract us. So, but in terms of living in what actually is the frequency of peace, we just think of peace as being like not war and stuff like that and people being happy. But what peace is as a frequency is like nothing. It's stillness. So you can't have life. You can't have creation. So we have to have duality in order to have creation. But we can have duality without the same extremes, right? It's like you can heal yourself or move through lessons without having to confront them. Like we won't have karma. That's the biggest change. The karma is the judgments made against ourselves. So instead, we're working in duality and we're learning about ourselves through the process of creation, but not in a way where we're having to endure enormous suffering. And that, I think, is the biggest change. Yeah. Dear Anne, I'm in the center of Israel under a missile. Oh my gosh, there's so much pain. How that plays in the shift. Thank you. I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for being with us while you are going through that. There is, like I said, I don't want to give this too little of a, because I want to give it the full message, and the message they gave yesterday was so beautiful about this. So I really encourage you to listen to that. It's from yesterday's Friday Live, and it is about, they talk actively about the people who have in this lifetime chosen to go to places where there is extreme stuff happening, like where you are, like where in places like, in Maui with the crazy fires, and in places with ridiculous flooding where 20,000 people were washed away. And like, why? Why are people there? Like, why the suffering? And the angel said it so beautifully. I might be able to pull it up for you. One of the things, you should hear the whole message. You really should, because it's just so amazingly inspirational. But they say that, here's what they say for you. They say that they who have taken form where realities are torn apart and find themselves now in lack and fear, we say to those that your light is coming, that your light is coming near, that you are holding the dormancies of the world in your experience and letting them pull you through to exhaustion so that others may fly freer. Let them be heralded now as the keepers of light, as the keepers of life as it will come. Let them be held in their exaltation and embrace of ourselves. We shall pass our hours at their assistance. So that is for you. So that is telling you, and they're honoring you for your choice to be there at this time, and telling you that by doing so, you are doing an enormous service for humanity. And they're saying that they're with you, and that they will be with you, and that they're saying your light is coming. So just know that the support is there for you. So I hope that helps, but do listen to the whole message. It's a beautiful message, and it is specifically addressing that. Hey, Denise is saying, just want to know what the effect the shift will have on oppressive regimes. So, okay, I think we answered that one with they're saying that basically anything that is structures that are trying to pull things in to benefit one, that those are no longer supported in the new energy. So what does that mean to be no longer supported? It's like it's almost like the things that the whoever wrote the book of success before is going to have to write it again. And we're right at 444 thumbs up, you guys. I just noticed that. Yay, so cool. But that idea that if a government is about trying to take from everybody for the benefit of one person, that the things that worked, the things that were effective, so like force and aggression and stuff like that, it's like imagine trying to send out an energy and it just falls flat. It won't be supported. It just won't work. And so and then there's also the thing of like things falling apart, structures falling apart, that the things that they relied on. So imagine that you have a dictator who all of a sudden can't access their money, right? That they can't access the funds to pay the mercenaries that work for them, right? That it's like things fall apart. And so that's how I think it will happen. So my cells are vibrating and gels like percolating. That is interesting. And is there economic reset coming? If so, when? Yes, there's economic reset coming. And I believe soon. I believe that we're looking at economic reset, that they've talked about the banking crisis, and they talked about, I believe that it's part of like this next phase that we're in these last few months of the year that's my belief in terms of, like I said, the angels have not given me a timeline, but especially like if you look at what's going on and you look at there's one astrologer that I think is amazing for timelines, and he looks at like the 5 outer planets. He was able to predict, he's passed now, but you can find information about him. He looked at the 5 outer planets and was able to look at massive trends and shifts, like where were major events and shifts. And he showed there was this massive dip at 2020, and it was aligning with the idea of having some sort of viral experience. And we are still in that. It kind of dipped, and then it kind of came up and wiggled down here, and then it doesn't start turning back around until after 2024. And then it goes all the way up to 2030 something. And then, and so it will be on this period where things are sort of slowly getting better. So I think a lot of this stuff is going to happen in the next couple years. I think we're in it. And the angels have said, like, it's starting now. Like the last message, the first thing they say, the weather is upon us. That's the first thing they said. Like, it's happening now, guys. That's what they're telling us. Buckle up. It's happening now. We're in it. And so, yeah. And so just trust that, like, when you're saying, well, when is this great fall of all the structures gonna happen? Like, look at the stress. Look at how they're slow, the rubber band getting pulled tighter and tighter and tighter. We can't see behind the veil of those institutions to see what stress they're under, but I'm willing to bet you that we will see some pretty major movement within the next couple months in terms of things happening. Let's see. It's okay. Is source the same as God? Yes. So I'll use the word God. God for me is a good word. I also like the word source, but please use the word that resonates for you. So I tend to use them interchangeably. Yeah. And then when I try to put in a question, it closes back to the one line stating question here. Oh, well, I can see your question. Put a question in. I can see it. Bridge of Light. What is your advice for use in this shift time? What is your advice for us in this shift time? Thank you. I'd say to work on like I said, do this thing about turning inward, to try to heal as much as you can, and recognize that in doing that, you are healing humanity, that you are turning us toward the light. And then the big thing they have about allowing and letting go of our expectations, letting go of the feeling of loss is the one thing that can really hold us back, is trying to cling to things that we used to have or the way things used to be. So really being open to recognize that we have to make a void, a space for new things to come in. So when we lose things, see that as a blessing, because something better is coming to you. And if you open to that, recognize that loss is just change, and that it's okay, that you're going to be all right. Yeah, but I think those are the message. One of the consistent things they've said over and over and over again is about allowing, letting go of loss, letting go of expectation. Yeah. And let's see. All right. I have been living in abundance all my life, living the dream job that never felt like a job. And today I lost it all. Abundance, dream job. I don't know how I'm going to pay. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. And just know, like I said, eclipse, look at your ascendant in the eclipse, and it will give you such good information about that happening today. Today is the eclipse. You got to check it out and see where it hits for you. It'll give you enormous information. It may be that you're meant to change direction right now, and it will be a fated experience. So know that let it go. Like whatever you lost, trust that you are clinging to what you lost will slow you down. And to trust that this is on purpose and that you're being guided to do something important. Like, why else? Why else would all this have been taken from you right now? Is because a fated thing is happening for you that is guiding you to something new. So to find out what it is, it's probably going to be in the realm of your career. And so, yeah, so if that's the case, check your ascendant, see which house it's in, and then be open. Start looking for what comes. Listen to your heart. See where you're directed. What do you want to do? Right? And trust. It's going to be amazing because you've been guided, right? This is happening to you right now for a reason. Why do we need to learn patience if in the spirit world there is no time? Oh, that's beautiful. I feel like I should put that on a coffee mug. Oh, what a great question, right? It's such a good question. Why the heck do we need patience? Come on, you guys. Oh my gosh. It is the time here is an instrument to slow us down, because if on the spirit plane we have instant manifestation, and here we have the veil, we don't see things, we don't have access to all information. And could you imagine if we had instant manifestation here, what chaos it would bring into our lives, how devastating it would be. We would create such bad things, like we would do a terrible job at it. So we have the benefit of time to slow us down so that we can course correct, so that we can start creating something and be like, whoa, I did not mean to make that, right? And we can do like do-overs. We have time to let things play out. And so patience comes hand in hand with that, right? That we have the benefit of time, but then we also have to suffer the experience of time. We have both, but it serves us. It really does. If you don't let go voluntarily, will it be taken? Money, health, relationship. I believe that will play out very, very individually for every person. Not necessarily, no. And it's not a fact of just the fact of Like you don't have to let go of everything. Like it is that idea of just trying to be in flow and seeing where in your life are things flowing to you and where are they flowing away from you. So for example, my daughter is just got a wonderful new opportunity and she's moving across the country. And I just, even though she's been like in Alaska on an internship for the last how many months, her moving, I know she's moving, like moving. Like this isn't an internship, this is a job, and she's going to be there like for years, like it's going to be for a while. And I just, yeah, of course, I heartache, you know what I mean? Just heartache. But I'm so happy for her. Like, I'm so delighted that she has this opportunity and it's going to be awesome. And, but I definitely have to go through that experience of being joyful that I have this experience of love in my life, being joyful that I love somebody so much, and then also letting her do her thing and letting go. And letting that just flow, letting it flow from, and just, trust in her. She's going to be great at staying in touch and all those things. Just letting it move through me and recognize that her moving opens me up to, in ways that, like, it is part of me doing my work in the world, right? I feel freer to travel. I feel freer to do the things that I want to do in terms of the work I want to do in the world, because I'm not focused on my kiddos so much. So it's recognizing that life is going to move through us in these different streams, and that we have to just be willing to let them flow and recognize that sometimes it's hard because the one that we were in, we really, really liked. But that just means that you are capable of creating something amazing because you created something amazing once. And so you will create more amazing things. Yeah. What is the significance of a complete and total change in my diet? I am basically all liquid now and it feels beyond normal to my body. I've removed so much over the past 10 months. I'm 52. Phenomenal. That is awesome. Like if it feels good, like listening to the body, that's phenomenal. Yeah. And it is, like that could just be the right thing for you health wise. I don't think we're meant to be like breatharians right now. Like that was the thing where there was this people out there saying like they didn't need to eat anymore and they were breatharians. But we do still have physical bodies. But it could be that you are like that you are wanting to take more light into your body. It could be that you want more lightness in the body. So it could be supporting you on your journey. So if it feels good, go for it. If it feels right, do it. That's awesome. And some advice on how to authentically let go. Let's see, to let go of wounding. There are actually a couple healings on my YouTube channel. If you go to the playlist, there's a playlist on meditations and healings, and there's a couple in there that will guide you through a really fantastic process of self-healing that can really, really help. And then in terms of letting go, like attachment to things, I think it is that sense of when we have a strong attachment, there's usually underneath it, there is fear. And so what is the fear sitting on? Like, what is it that you're afraid of? If it's the fear of like letting go of someone or something, is there the fear that you can't create another job, or the fear that no one else will love you, or the fear that like, where does that sit? And so logically you'll be like, no, of course I can. But emotionally you might feel like, no, I can't. Like, or what if I can't? What if I can't? So in there somewhere is the feeling of like, I'm not worthy or I'm not lovable. And that's the wound that needs to be healed. And so that's the place I would look. And I would say join my Soul Convergence, and that will help you enormously. And another tool you can use is the healings that are on the channel. So if you go and, like I said, playlist, there's one on healing, but it will give you a really, really nice self-healing process you can use for letting things go. I had a dream where the rainbow bridge was beginning to solidify. Ooh, how cool is that? So rainbows are typically about the chakras in a dream. And we have several dream analysts on the call who would love to interpret that for you. But beginning to solidify. So I would say that has to do with you clearing your chakras, right? I think that's really awesome. So if any of our dream analysts want to chime in, please do. Let's see. And Mary Beth says, investing in money is something you believe is still a favorable option. It is a really tricky thing because the fact is money still serves us in the sense that all money is stored energy. It allows us to move energy from one place to another. And so, yeah, we still need it right now. And it's like, where is the safe place to put it? I don't know. Like, it's a tough question. And so I think it is an idea of like just to kind of put a little here and a little there. And yeah, I do think that it is investing. Like I'd say the stock market I think is going to crash really, really hard. So I would be really careful about that. But there are other places you can keep it. And maybe even in the stock market, maybe you put it in things that are just, like that value investing idea. So just very conservative choices is what I would say for right now. The more conservative, the better. So whatever that looks like for you is to try to pick very conservative options, because I do think we're going to be going through a period of massive disruption, and having some resources there when you go through that can be great, because it might be the time that maybe it's the time that you're finally able to buy your first home, or maybe it's the time that, you know what I mean, that whatever, see how it plays out for you. But I would say just be conservative right now. And there's a lot of people that are saying gold and silver, and I know there's a lot of people that's certainly a good option too. So just look at for yourself where you feel a conservative option is. And you say, well, I'd be reborn in a body once more. There will still be incarnation on earth. So unless this is your last incarnated life, which is definitely true for some people, for sure, particularly in the community of light workers, you're going to see a lot of people that are here for like, this is it, this is your last time. And that'll show up in your dreams, by the way. It'll show you loud and clear if this is your last life. So that may be the case, but there will still be incarnation here. But it'll just be different. It'll be incarnation, but without karma. Do I and the angels think it is best to be eating vegetarian, and what not to eat? Oh gosh, thanks for asking that, Liz. I'm a vegan. I do eat eggs, but I'm otherwise plant-based. And the reason for that, for me, being a trans channel, is I need to have as much light in my body as possible. So I try to eat things that create light, that photosynthesize. So it helps me to stay in that frequency. But I do know that there are people who who are meant to eat meat because their bodies need it. Like, we are still in physical bodies. So I don't have judgment about people who eat meat. I do have challenges personally with the way that meat is farmed, that animals are treated in farming, and what it does to our climate. I have issues with that, to me personally. That is a personal thing. That's not an angel thing. That I worry about that. I have a lot of concerns about that. But that doesn't mean that you can't have sustainable agriculture, that you can't have, really sustainable farming practices. So I hope that part of the change that we go through is more local production of food of all different types, and that it's done in ways that are much more favorable to the environment and to the animals and to the plants. Yeah. But so I think it has to be like, listen to your body, because it's definitely, like I said, there's some people who need greater amounts of different types of protein. So, and that again will show up in your dreams. You message, give me so much hope. Thank you, Denise. I'm so glad. You're saying I'm on the verge of running out of money right now, but I can't find the energy to look for a job. Can't even meditate or exercise. I go and say, what should I do? I'm so sorry. That is really tough if you feel like you can't find the energy. But all I would say is that things can change in a moment. That you don't have energy right now, that doesn't mean you're not going to have energy tomorrow. And so I would say just to try your best not to judge yourself, because that's taxing. Like, judging yourself right now takes energy. It's like attacking your immune system. If you're sitting there like telling yourself, like, I'm doing the wrong thing, I'm doing the wrong thing. What if you gave yourself and you said, tomorrow I'm doing nothing? And you allowed yourself, and you just gave yourself the gift of doing nothing, and said, it is okay for me to do nothing today because I'm exhausted and I need this rest. And then see how that feels, and see if you get what you need from the rest by giving it to yourself without guilt. They've been very clear about banking and other financial systems collapsing. What do they see for crypto? Will this be a rising system? I think that at the moment that it probably has the tendency, like everything else, to crash. So I would think, like, I would say that is, I would not call that a concern. Like, I know a lot of people are diversifying into crypto, and so I would say follow your own guidance, follow what feels right to you. To me, and they haven't talked about crypto, you're right, but to me, I would stick to things that are like as close to cash as you can get, like as close to, but whatever instruments that feel as safe as possible is what I would choose. So, and for me, that wouldn't include crypto, but at the same time, maybe it's part of a whole picture for you. Maybe it's part of, that just in case, if this goes and that goes, and you know what I mean? So I would listen to your own guidance, and they haven't specifically spoken to it. I have been hearing much will be dissolving and changing. Is this down to the level of no more jobs, no more goods and services that we're used to counting on? It can be. I mean, like, there's certain parts of the world that don't have like I said, that are just wiped down to nothing. But they said not everything will happen everywhere, and there will be still a certain amount of structure in the world for sure. And so what I would say is, if there's things that you need, what can you do now to find community and to find things locally? Like what are things that are provided locally to you, local sources? And so to start looking for that and finding people in your community that maybe have skills or things that you can share and help each other. So yeah, so that's what I would suggest. And then we're at 2 hours and 13 minutes, you guys. And I love the questions and I love this, but I also am recognizing I need to take a break before our next, we're going to come on again at 4. So, which is awesome. We're going to do it at 4 o'clock. So, but let's do 5 more questions and then let's wrap it up for the day. And let's see here. And then we're going to, like I said, I will be back on at 4 o'clock. And I would love to have you come back again. If I didn't get to your question this time, I apologize. And then we'll try to get to it in the next one. And then we'll go, like I said, we're going to be back at 4. And we'll do it again on the, Wednesday the 25th, I think. And then Wendy is putting the link for Soul Convergence into the chat so that you guys can find it and you guys can sign up and be part of this really, truly life-changing program that we're going to be doing together. Let's get a couple more questions. We'll do 5 more questions. Let's see here. Why don't the angels and source give us specifics to better hold the light and better understand? I think there's certainly information out there. But I think the key thing right now is to start to feel like it's possible. And I think until you have that feeling, it's very hard for any light for you to feel it, for you to feel the support. And so there's somewhere in there where it's almost like you can't feel the hope until you allow yourself to feel the hope. So it's like opening up and just taking a breath and letting the angels speak to them out loud and just ask them for that breath of hope. And that's what you need right now. You need someone to breathe into you and say it's possible, so that you can open up and then let things come in and let yourself start to feel better. But I think, like I said, number 1, stop judging yourself. And number 2, ask the angels for that breath of hope. That I feel like it's what you need. Yeah, rising sign is in AC half and half house. Is it AC half and half? 12th house. Oh, 12th house. Oh, you're in the 12th house. Interesting. So you could be, I don't know what AC means. Is in AC half and half, 12th house. If it's in your 12th house, it's going to be typically, you might have something that's coming out of hiding, like something that you might be coming out of hiding. So how will that show up in your life? Is there something about you? Are you ready to be seen? Are you ready to come out? So we'll see what that looks like for you. Shelley says, how much or how significant is it to take edibles at night to sleep? Does it significantly inhibit the ability to remember dreams? Good question, Shelley. That it does. The one concern I have about the use of edibles or the use of pot in general is that I believe that the consciousness of the plant has been altered, that it's been changed so much because there's been so much crossbreeding. And if you look at like what the original, like way back when, there was like 2 varieties of plant, and they have changed them and changed them and changed them and changed them and changed them. And I feel like when I feel into the consciousness of that plant, of marijuana, and I know there's like a billion different ones, but it does not always feel beneficial to me anymore. And I feel at times it can be it's almost like it's somehow merged with the consciousness of the people who are farming it. It feels like there are times that I will see people who smoke a lot of pot, and I will see almost like a band across their third eye, like it blocks the third eye. So that's not the case for everything, for every type of variety probably, and not every person, but I just hesitate. And so, but if you can't sleep without it, what do you do? If it's helping you enormously, then what do you do? But I would still think, I can't say, will it impact your ability to dream? Probably not. I think you'll probably still be able to dream. But is it a thing where, is there something else you can take for sleep that might help? I don't know. Or maybe you try that and then you try using the processes that we give you and see if it works. So experiment. Let's try different things and see what works for you. Yeah. Will the eclipse cause more energy to come in? The eclipse, these eclipses are about, I believe they're bringing in an energy that is around chaos, right? It's about change. It's about switching things up, dramatic shiftings. And so yeah, so it's like every time you make a crack, more light gets in. So yeah, it is bringing in more energy for sure. But the specific energy, it's almost like if you feel into the energy of it, it's like there's, it's almost like getting a shot of, it's really, really fast, really, really rapid energy. So it feels almost like a little bit like Uranus would feel, you know, if you were to feel that as an energy. That feels like what's coming in with this. And let's see here, we'll do a couple more. And humanity is just one part of this shift. What degree is nature playing and helping? Well, we have coming up potentially many major Earth, a major Earth shift coming up, but absolutely this is about the Earth herself. The Earth is rising, and I see humanity as being a part of the Earth, that we are like her neurons, like we are her thoughts. And so we're all part of her. So our shift is her shift. So it's all connected. So what role is she playing? She is the star. She's the star of this ascension, and we are her support. You know, and so yeah, so it's her piece of it is large. And then as we evolve past this ascension, I believe the role that we will have is to become caretakers of the Earth, which I think is going to be amazing. All right, you guys. Oh, thank you so much for spending this time with me. I am so grateful to you. And your questions have been amazing. Like, what an incredible discussion we've had. I really appreciate it. So if you have any more questions or thoughts about the program that you want to ask, anything else that we can do for you, please come to the next session or send them in. The link to the program is, like I said, it's on my website. It's called Soul Convergence. I would love to have you in it. I feel like this is going to be something that could make a major change for people. And I cannot wait to see how it plays out in your lives. So thank you so much. I'm sending you lots of love. What an amazing time with you guys. And have a great rest of your afternoon. And maybe I'll see you at 4. Bye, you guys.